to let them know that we are the American Indians. Copper color Indians, baby. A real Indian, American Indian is me, not from Africa. Remember that.
African Americans here, but they recently moved here from places like Kenya, Ethiopia, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Zaire. But now the brother whose family's lived in this country for generations, occupying space in all the locations, New York, Miami, LA, Detroit, Chicago, even if he's wearing a dashiki and sporting an afro. And if you go to Africa in search of your race, you'll find out quick, you're not an African American. You're just a black American in Africa taking up space. Why you keep trying to attach yourself to a continent where even if you got the chance to go and you went, most people that wouldn't even claim you as one of them, as a purebred daughter or son of them.
And we are not Africans. We are not African. Are you an African, baby? I'm not no African. Nigga, you a lie.
ISO. Dama. Woo! Hey, there's so many lies, so many lies. Hey, there's so many lies, so many lies. Yo, there's so many, hey, there's so many, yo, there's so many, yo, there's so many lies. Look in my eyes, they know I'm the truth. They know that. Knocking them down every time I step in the booth. We ain't gotta lie, they know we the vibe, we living in proof. It's young, conscious, shoot my life a movie, I live in a spoof. Ain't no sticking around, I'm on the move, I'm checking the dudes. Yeah, it's only us two, so you know we copping that coupe. We on the roof, smoking dope, look at the view. Yeah, we used to chill on the stoop, now we out here breaking the news. It ain't what you really could do, cause we ain't got nothing to lose. We ain't switched side with no cruise, we just stayed out of the loop. Now we out here letting it loose, every shot we took it was swoosh. Gotta get it, ain't no excuse, ain't left to prove. Hey, yeah, hey, there's so many lies, so many lies. Hey, there's so many lies, so many lies. Yo, there's so many, hey, there's so many, yo, there's so many.
Yeah, ask them a real question, yeah, I bet it's all lies. Hey, they won't cross that line for a fact that's offsides. Hey, too much penalties when they run this back, yeah, it's fines. Hey, could've been here with us, but we do not force no vibes. Hey, she gon' ride the whip and let me park it in the driveway. They just want the praise like they Yahweh. Getting so much bread, get a ride way. We done already won, yeah, that's worth the ride way. But they still lying right through their teeth, and they still hiding behind many troops. They was D9, watch my every move, tell them keep fine. Leave that shit on scene, I ain't replying. Less I know you, that don't mean I'm Hollywood. That just mean I'm Hollywood. All y'all, I probably stood on no falls, all cause. More times I probably should. I don't know nobody like us. You see how much time it took?
Yeah, hey, there's so many lies, so many lies, so many lies. Hey, there's so many lies, so many lies, so many, there's so many, hey, there's so many, yo, there's so many.
Hey, there's too many lies. Hey, yeah, ISO, Indies, Dama.
ISO.
Hey. Hey, we lit up in this piece. Wire North, y'all. Hey now, Happy New Year's, Happy New Year's. Hey y'all, light that chat up. Wire North up in the house. Wire period up in the house. Yes, all the 50 states is up in here. Smash the like button and the surrounding islands is up in this piece. Smash the like button, y'all. Oh my goodness. A hot mess. Hey, Elise, Lady Moon, Straight Smoke, Girly 72. Hey now. Hey, y'all smash that like button, please. That's what's gonna hit it. Yep. We all on Twitter up in here. Yeah, finally, y'all. Twitter folks. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Hey. Oh, ho, ho. Man, I love y'all. I do. I love y'all so much. All my heart. Do you know how long it took? It took me so long to stream to Twitter. I was so afraid because I thought that my political associates from across these states would, judge me. And I put them. It was a hot mess. I streamed them and asked them to, go to Chief Channel. And I got oh my God, you won't believe how many texts I got. They take me, where the hell are we? They thought that they were in my channel because they're not used to YouTube. They're used to, hey, my Lisa, they're used to Twitter. So when I, gave them the link to go all these texts, they got, hey, where are we? What's going on? They're like, what's going on? What is this? What is this? They was wild and sending me texts. Where the hell am I? But they stayed the whole time. On New Year's, it was so funny. I kept getting text laughing. I had to keep explaining, but they stayed. Y'all stayed. And I appreciate y'all so much for that. I know it's kind of wild, on the wild side, but that's the wild side of the community. But it wasn't no fighting or nothing or arguing. But I know that, they like the political stuff. So, and y'all know I'm talking about my history. And just because I'm speaking about my history doesn't mean that I'm being racist. All I'm doing is talking about my true history in this land. In this landmass. Y'all smash the like button, please. And that's all it is. It's not racist. You guys know that I'm the most multicultural individual probably standing here in the North. So as I educate and relate with the people in my community, I ask that you not take it to offense. It's because it's the way that culturally that we relate with each other. And I don't want you to be offended when you're in here because it truly is just our culture and the way we act. Sometimes it might seem a little offensive, but it's not. It's just the way that we act and interact with each other as a people. A lot of politicians, that are Aboriginal, American Indian, whatever, are ashamed to act with their communities in the way that we normally act when we're at home. So I'm vibing and acting, and communicating and loving my community and they love me for who I am. And I like to communicate with them comfortably like I do when I'm home. I'm not at work, I'm on my free time. So this is the time that I enjoy my community. And again, don't take it to offense. I think what would help is if you try to understand. Just because we talk to each other like we're crazy and it looks like we're fighting, oftentimes we're really not. And we use the N word and all of that stuff, but it's our what we have picked up to be culturally crazy. So y'all smash the like button. So listen, them Pan Africans is off the change. They are outraged so bad. I mean, we're killing them. We're knocking them dead, and they don't like it. These Pan Boo Boos are thirsty. And when I say Pan Boo Boos to my audience, we're talking about Pan Africans. These are potentially hundreds of what we call today our people, black people, that are believing that your white people, you people, Europeans, white Europeans, took them from Africa on a slave ship. This is what they believe. And I'm speaking this way, chat room, because I'm speaking to a lot of my politicians across, the states and in my state. A Pan-African is, in our community, is a black person like me who potentially and more than likely is really an Aboriginal, American Indian, however you call it, to the North American landmass. Okay. And so they're a group of hundreds of them. They believe in the fairy tale story that a few white colonizers snatched them up out of Africa on a slave ship, packed them like sardines in the bottom of the ship, and brought them here in chains for them to serve your ancestors. White Europeans, I'm talking to you. When you hear Pan African, they're promoting this story, this fairy tale story that their ancestors were taken by your ancestors. Okay. Even though millions of your ancestors didn't get here until like the late 1800s, early 1900s as a people and wasn't even involved in no slave trade. A lot of millions of your ancestors were never slave masters here. Now, this is what they believe. So when they see white people, period, it doesn't matter where they come from, these Pan-Africans, they believe that your ancestors, okay, took our ancestors from Africa and brought them here on slave ships. Okay. This is what the Pan-Africans believe. We call them Pan-Africans because it's hilarious. Not even understanding that a white guy is the one who created the Pan-African movement. Hilarious. But this is what a group of them believe, rather than believing the truth that we are actually the Negro. Okay, Negro we know is a Spanish name, is a black Indian that's always been here and from infinite times. And and that we're the Indians. Now, there's a story of the Indians who were enslaved. That would be our ancestors. When you hear the Indians enslaved in their own land, they can't grasp the fact that we are the Indians that were enslaved in our own land, and our lands were taken from us. And I'm giving this to my colleagues across the state so they can better understand my channel. So y'all have to bear with me, all of us who've been studying our history. Yep, smash the like button. Oh yes, y'all doing great with the likes. Awesome. So this is the biggest hate and the biggest controversy when it comes to my people that look like me, who are actually from this soil and or who are standing on that you white Europeans, no matter what European you are, ancestors brought us here, beat us, and gave us y'all's surname. And that's who we were. But they don't understand that there was uh, white people came from Europe as indentured servants here in promised land. They don't even look at that story. And there were thousands and thousands. And they also don't believe that um, slavery exists today. It's just modernized. But we've already gone through that. So what they do are these Pan-Africans do. They blame everything to do with history on the white man. They think the white man's the bad guy that enslaved all of us, beat us, and all these other horrible things, which is crazy. What they don't understand is the Indians from the north. They don't get it. So what they're doing, these Pan-Africans, to my colleagues, what they're doing, they want to be African so bad that they're taking DNA tests. Okay, the 23andMe and these other weird DNA tests that is trying to prove that they came from the landmass in Africa. It's just like hilarious. Granted, all of you, my colleagues that are attorneys out there, they know, and you know that I know that none of these tests are real. They're fake. They're for entertainment purposes. So they're using those tests to say, hey, I'm from Nigeria. And it's just not true. It's just so far from the truth. And they're standing on it. The other thing that they want to prove, even though lots of them know that they are aboriginals to this landmass, what they're doing is trying to prove that they're African so bad because they want reparations. They want to fight for reparations because they feel this is what the whole reparations thing is about, my colleagues, my white colleagues watching. This whole reparations thing is about getting reparations for black people who supposedly were taken from enslaved ships from Africa, and it's just a joke. So we, American Indians, are fighting it right now to this date to ban that. And we're going hard. We're going hard on Cory Booker. We going hard on Sheila Jackson Lee because just because we're brown don't mean that we're from Africa. Now, today, there's Africans here, as my colleagues, as you know, but they're not the descendants of slaves in America. And what these Pan-Africans don't understand is that the fairy tale story of us being snatched out of another continent and brought here to the Americas on a damn sailboat. Because at the time that they're stating that they were snatched out of Africa, okay, they can't even tell you where in Africa. All right, on a sailboat, okay, a sailboat. There weren't even any motors made in the days to get the boat here and go. Forget even trying to go through the Bering Strait. This is how you know the fallacies in their belief. And it's just crazy. Now, there and is recorded history that the British, okay, brought slaves to the Americas, but they didn't bring them to the mainland where we are, where the 50 states sit. They brought them to Jamaica to work on the sugarcane fields. And that Jamaica story backs it up because the British did record exactly where these slaves came from in Jamaica. They record them as being black, which is Negro, the skin color, okay? And they also recorded where they came from, whether it was African or Creole. So they identified like over 3 million slaves in Jamaica. So the more ironic part in this, my colleagues, is that we don't understand why they're fighting for reparations in the United States for reparations, because they need to go to Britain because that's who brought them here. Well, I cannot talk to people right now. They brought them to Jamaica. That was Britain. They was brought to Jamaica before the United States was even in existence. This is the slippery part that they're missing. To my colleagues, hey Bab, hey T. Allen Warren, hey y'all, Big Dog Philly, OG Mount City Mellow. I'm just communicating with my colleagues, Bab. I'm gonna put the link in the chat for my brother Bab to hop on the panel with me. Paste. Because I'm explaining to my political colleagues, and they're really, a lot of them are in here, and they're texting me. It's just like really wild. And I'm explaining to them so they can better understand my channel. Because right now they think I'm some crazy wild woman, but they know me. It's just my personality. But anyway, back to what I was saying. They cannot get reparations from the United States because the United States didn't drag them from Africa and bring them on the mainland here. United States was not in existence. United States didn't come into existence until 1776. Okay? Prior to that, it was only the 13 colonies. And at the time that the 13 colonies started, it was under the control of Britain. So Britain, who Britain brought here, they forget that the people that came here, okay, that were kicked out, they kicked them out and brought them here, okay, to start a new life, and they promised them land. And that was white people from Britain. That's who came here. And they're trying to say that those were Africans from Africa that was brought on slave ships. They got the story all twisted up, my colleagues. And you know, we our nation, we are fighting that with tooth and nail because they are trying to paint a history about America that wasn't so. A lot of people today and back then volunteered to come from the islands to get jobs in the South. They did. I won't knock that, but they weren't enforced slavery. It was our style. It was our way of living in the South. We lived the agricultural lifestyle. And what they don't understand is, to my colleagues, is in the South, we had the agricultural lifestyle in the South. And if getting them to understand that slavery was employment, because the owner of the slave had to feed them, shelter them, and clothe them. Okay. Oftentimes, our people, Negroes, okay, Indians, Negro Indians, we were the slave owners of our family members. We had, as a people, period, we had between 13 and 20 children, and we worked our own farms. That was our lifestyle. We did no fiat. So a lot of the slave owners were Negroes. One of the biggest Negro farm owners in Virginia, Anthony Johnson. Okay. And this is how you know that it was a type of employment. There he is. Hey, Bap, that's you. I just want to make sure it's not Rob coming up here to porn by me. All right, babe, you can turn it off, sweetie. And I just want you, my colleagues, to understand that this is how you know that it was a type of employment, which is, because how are you going to have, okay, there's one slave owner. He had 5,000 slaves on his farm. That's how, now, Here's what makes it look like really crazy. You have 5,000 slaves on your farm, right? And it's a white guy that owns 5,000 slaves, right? And he has a wife and some kids on this huge ass landmass in the South. Okay. Now, do you think it's humanly possible with the ugly stories they have about this, where the white guy went out and beat his slaves in the back with whips and stuff? Okay, mind you, there's no telephones back in that day, no walkie talkies. Okay, and it's a white guy with 5,000 black people um, on their farm working. And how many of those black people do you go, or do you think even his family are going to allow them to beat a person in whips and chains? This is why this story doesn't make sense. They literally, all those black people on that farm would have buried their whole family. You're talking 5,000 wild Negroes that look like me. Okay. This is why the story, I tell you, the story doesn't make sense. Let me put the picture in your head even a little bit more. Let's go. Let's see. These guys. Okay. Now, to my white colleagues that's listening across the states, I'm trying to relieve you from these bad stories that these Pan-Africans keep putting on your families. And this is the main reason why blacks and whites don't see eye to eye. Well, the black man that's from the hood. Now, picture 5,000 of these guys with their wives and children on the farm working, and you come and beat the guy in the black hoodie as a white guy. Now, the two people on the top are the slave owners, the white lady and white man. They own 5,000 slaves on their farm. Do you think that these poor old white people are going to even make it off their land if they were to tie up one of them up against a tree and just beat him with a whip like they showed you in the movie Roots? Do you think they would even make it alive? Would these poor little white people not be under a tree or under their house buried somewhere? This is why we are getting and fighting and getting rid of the lies about history, because it's just not right. It's not right to blame this on white people because it's not true. So many of my white colleagues, like yourselves, have already told me that your ancestors came here as indentured servants. Okay. And you got land and blah, blah, blah. Lots of you live next door to Indians that look like me. We Indians that never went on the Trail of Tears. Now, we did have that moment where Indians went on the Trail of Tears, but 90% of the Indians decided not to go, which explains why so many of our ancestors joined the Union Army to dismantle the agriculture and lifestyle in the South. And I have a brother who's another content creator, Aboriginal Power, on with me, and he speaks a lot about our history as a people. What say you? Shout out to everybody watching. Please hit the like button. What say you, Ab Power, about the fake history? I'm going to relinquish and let you speak on it a bit.
Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of critical things when we look and re-examine history. We know that they have fabricated a lot of the history. They have created a template, a blanket template that pretty much cloaks on over everyone's who's Negro or so-called Black in America's history. And once we finding out is that doing your own genealogy, you have your own individual stories and lineage that contradicts the blanket template that they have given you. We've been drug over here from various different countries in Africa. We've been forced to work for free. We was on breeding plantations. See, those are some of the contradictions. As a matter of fact, so-called Black people owned their land. They were sharecroppers. There were landowners. There was there was growers, there was cultivators, there was great agriculturalists. And like you said, some of the earlier schools in the South, the A&Ms, right, the agricultural and machines, those schools was directly impacted and built off of the stride knowledge of some of those indigenous people or so-called black folks in the southern southeast area. So yeah, history has been fabricated and it has been remixed and then inserted back into your brain for you to be able to understand this. And this happens on a global level. This happens on on a large scale. The scientific community works hand in hand with a lot of the judicial systems, and a lot of the things that the early judicial systems did to deprive and oppress a certain group of people are now blanketed, hidden behind the scientific community. And now they're pushing that same system and hiding behind the system while trying to justify it. So at the same time, our people are just trying to get liberation, we're trying to get restitution, and we're trying to get restored what was initially took from us. That's all. And one of those things that we got to add back into replacement is the accurate depiction of history.
Can you touch a bit on Anthony Johnson that owned a lot of those slaves?
Yeah, if you look up Anthony Johnson, William Ellison, Antoine Dulisset, and there's various different so-called black slave owners. As a matter of fact, we mostly hear about the William Ellison, the Anthony Johnson, the Antoine Dulisset, but the vast majority of black slave owners would have been females, and so the females would have been in operation of these large plantations and operating these lands and managing it. So when we say landowners and slave owners, we're talking about a business system before this government taxation federal system that we see today. A lot of these earlier plantations leased some of their land out for prison work. Some of it was used for growing and cultivating. Some of it was used for cattle. Some of it was used for cotton industry. These are the things that we use, and we hired a list of workers from all over the world. And in the early 1600s, the first slaves to enter in America, I know y'all probably thinking it's black people, right? Wrong, right? The first slaves to enter in America was pale-skinned slaves, European. All right. Hold on, sister, let me into this call. I got a call coming in. 1 second.
Okay. Can I ask my colleagues to please hit the? I know I see there's 400 likes, but it's 1,800 in here. If you could please hit the like button, I really appreciate it. If you can hit the like button, that really helps. I'm trying to grow my channel, and this year I'm changing my whole way of delivering on YouTube. Hey, I just want to shout out to everybody that's currently in the chat. Sammy, Lewis Luck, Yellowhammer, not a coincidence. Hello. And when you see this person, my colleagues, this is one of the people that I believe he's probably could be an agent. And they're fighting, they're what you call a Pan-African, I believe. I believe he might be a Pan-African, but you'll see him in the chat room saying little things and just being hilarious about the DNA and the whole slave trade thing. But you can get your laugh on about him because we know what our ancestors did. And as Europeans, white Europeans, you know what your ancestors did. So if you guys can hit the like button, it'll be great. And you'll probably see some more Pan-Africans rolling up in here, which is hilarious. It's just so hilarious. These guys are funny, and they really believe that the United States government is going to give them money for reparations. And we're fighting it as Indians because this is our land. And we have a right to fight this in federal court because they're lying.
Yeah, they want reparations for a slave-based narrative that never happened to a set group of people. You see what I'm saying? What did happen to us is in color, family. It's in black and white. The misclassification on paper, the federal census, using those particular data to abstract to manipulate the masses and to relocate the masses, called the system of gentrification. That's all done by the process of the federal census, you know. And these are to displace a certain group of people so they can have a standard fixture to who these people are, what general area are they assigned to, and how can they deprive those areas. And then this is why we have low poverty ghetto areas now. This is by design, family. This is by design.
Correct. Another interesting thing, you guys hit the like, please. I really appreciate it so much. And it's really helpful for our channel. And I'm telling you, my colleagues, if you, anytime you want to hit that link and come up here and dialogue with me about what you were taught in history, and about American history, about the Indians, and I would really love to dialogue with you guys, and we could, because we're professional and we could keep it professional. Um, Another thing that I wanted to really talk about is when a lot of white Europeans came over. I'm not speaking about the black Europeans that came over here way earlier, Plymouth Rock. I'm speaking about when the white Europeans came over here in like 1619. Um, a lot of white Europeans had babies with our families, and there was no laws until later, way later, about us not marrying and having children with white people. That didn't happen until, wasn't it Andrew Jackson's time, or was it earlier than that?
What did you say, Sister Betty? My bad.
Well, there was no laws made or anything when white Europeans came over here in like the 1600s, where they weren't allowed to make babies with us and we be in relationships, right? That didn't happen then. We made
No, that
babies
didn't
with
happen
them.
until later on in those.
Was it Andrew Jackson's time, right?
Yeah, right before Andrew Jackson's time, right before that, they started implementing small laws in certain counties and jurisdictions that was subscribed to the colonies, and those was limited areas. Like I said, in 1670, the first act that acted that enacted that particular system happened in 1670, and that was in one particular spot. You know what I'm saying? So outside of that, everywhere else was free game. They was, the slave based system was full fledged at that point.
Right. So, Bap, um, I was watching Sinetta's channel yesterday, and Dosalina, I hope I said her name right. I hope I didn't kill her name, because I don't really know her that well.
Dulcinea, I think. Yeah,
Dosalina. She showed her DNA test.
Oh man.
23andMe. It was amazing. And none of her ancestors were in Africa. You know how they show the map and it has the dots where all her bloodline is supposed to be?
Yeah.
It was all in America, right?
Right.
And then they had maybe a dot or two, maybe about 2 dots in Europe, right? And then I think in Australia somewhere. Nowhere in Africa. And so I was like, wow. She came on and said, I'm sorry to tell you, but my family is from the Americas. And they seen it. I seen it. And oh my goodness, you should have seen the behaviors. Go back and watch it. This is yesterday's segment of Jabari. It was so bad that Sinetta dragged Jabari on, and all these African wannabes was on the panel. It was like 7 people, right? And they're the ones who pressured you to go take your DNA so you can see what part of Africa you're from. This girl has like no bloodline in Africa, right? So do you know that they said, well, hit the map or location or something like that, and it didn't have it there either. So do you know them fools was trying to put her in Africa, saying, "Oh, it's not going to show you that." Now they're going to put you there, even
Oh
though she
man.
didn't have no
Even
bloodline.
though the test don't say it, they're gonna try to physically talk their way into moving you into Africa. And this is all
Yes,
by design. This is part of the
yes.
indoctrination process. That's crazy. Shout out
I
to the
was
sister
like, "Oh my
Dulcinea.
God!" It was one sister up there who was like, "Oh hell no," she wasn't going for the bullshit. She knew who her people was, and but everybody else that was up here wanted this poor girl to be over in Africa. They were angry. Jabari was like, he was just like flabbergasted because not one African. Oh God, it was just horrible. Dulcinea is American, honey. No
Oh
African.
yeah, I could have told you that.
I'm like, I'm done. And then they like have like this Q Butter was on this morning with his crew. He's desperate for um Pan-African, I mean for Aboriginals, Indians, Top Cats. Oh my goodness. It
Yeah, I
was
see you had my name in the title. And that's
yes.
funny you
Dane
said
was
it.
on there too early this morning. They was harassing him. It was terrible, but he shut their ass down.
Yeah, that's crazy. And yeah, man, we gotta wake up. You know, African Americans ain't African.
Huh?
African Americans ain't African.
Correct. That's a fact. And so, my colleagues, this is what the big fight is. And the most interesting thing is, we're not fighting any white Europeans at all. That's the thing. White Europeans are not coming in our community saying, "Hey, you're from Africa." It's our own people doing this. Our own people have always been our own enemy, which I'm getting a much better under. The more I see the way we're behaving today as a people and we're so divided, I'm talking about the brown people, my people, to my colleagues. The more I study our behaviors, the more I have a clear understanding as to why our ancestors in the South, as well as the full North, joined the Union and fought in the Revolutionary War to dismantle the South, its lifestyle. I understand it today now. And the more I understand, the more I read. What do you say about that app power? I mean, I can understand why now. I couldn't imagine being under a government of these Pan Africans. Well, our people calling themselves Pan Africans. And I just can't.
I mean, that's pretty much what you call yourself as African American. You know, they done hit us with that already. You know, we got the short end of the stick uh,
Yeah.
off of this whole thing. Um, I feel like nobody wants to be dictated against. You know what I mean? Being a communist position to the point where they got to listen to someone else that doesn't have their best interest for their people. You know,
Mhm.
it's best for our people to do what's best for us. And sometimes things could get rough, but we gotta let the people know who we are as indigenous American Indians, Aboriginal peoples of America. Uh, and I believe you're doing a hell of a good job at that, Sister Betty, Chief Morning Thunder.
Thank you. So I know I've showed this document plenty of times, but I want to read it to my colleagues because a lot of them that are here from Twitter and all around the world, my political people, I want you to read something that, and you guys, a lot of you guys work for different different governments. I want to read a document. It's a report where the census taker, it's the 1890 census, I believe, or 1860. And it's the report that the Indians, the five civilized tribes, had to submit to the United States um, Commissioner of the Department of Interior. And they gave a report, the enumerators, when they were on the reservations in Oklahoma. And I just want you guys to listen to this. And then I have some other documents that I want to bring some sense to you about us and why history has been hiding our identity as the people here. Now, the citizens of the 5 tribes watch with a jealous eye each movement of the United States or its agents as questions of vast moment are pending. This made them chary of answering questions proposed by the enumerators or special agents. So check this out, my colleagues. A serious difficulty was met in the answer to, are you an Indian? Now, you're going to read, I'm going to read why it was difficult. Under the laws of the 5 tribes or nations of the Indian Territory, a person white in color and features is frequently an Indian, being so by remote degree of blood or by adoption. So they're saying here, my colleagues, that white people became Indians by blood because they slept with someone who had the blood of the Indian or was an Indian. Okay. Or they were adopted into the tribe. There are many whites now resident claiming to be Indians whose claims have not as yet been acted on by the nations. So a lot of white people began starting to try to claim that they were Indians. They were saying that they had an Indian ancestor. Now, this whole time, they're only talking about 2 manner of people, Negroes and whites, never given the identity of an Indian. So, and we're going to get into that. But it goes on to saying that Negroes are frequently met who speak nothing but Indian languages and are Indians by tribal law and customs. Now, here's the funky thing. The Negroes who would be me, because of Negro means black in Spanish, and it's my skin color. So you have the Negroes on the reservations and you have the whites. Now, the Negroes that look like me, we don't speak nothing but Indian language. No other language. All we speak is Indian languages. And are Indians by tribal law and custom. And others are met who call themselves Indians, who have not yet been so acknowledged by the tribes. These circumstances necessarily produce some confusion as to the number of Indians separately designated. Okay. So now they're really confused because they're saying white people with white features, are Indians, and they're people with white in color and features. Now, remind you, we know, my colleagues, I know you. If you pick up a white piece of paper, we know you're not white, but they're just distinguishing the light from the dark. Now, they're saying that the white people are Indian by blood, by a remote degree of blood, meaning a distant, maybe their grandmother or great grandma or somebody's an Indian. But the Negroes are the only ones on the reservation that speak all the Indian languages. Now, these circumstances necessarily produce some confusion as to the number of Indians separately designated. However, the population as given is correct. Okay, so they're counting the Negroes and the whites. That basically, the difficulties surrounding the taking of the census were augmented by the fact that in enrolling the Indians, it frequently occurred that it was necessary to equip 2 and sometimes 3 interpreters to accompany the enumerator to converse with Indians in the same locality. So now the Negroes are the ones who didn't speak nothing but Indian languages. So that enumerator needed 2 or 3 of them to come with them around in the same locality so that they could interpret with the other Indians. They needed the Negroes for that. They never once mentioned that the person white in color and features spoke Indian languages. The only one they speak about that spoke all the Indian languages is the Negro. So my thing is their law, and this is the 5 tribes combined. This report is a 5-tribe combined report. All of the tribes said the Negro is the Indian. My parents' birth certificate, they're Negroes. Okay. My great-great-grandmother's, my grandmother's birth certificate and marriage certificate in their era, 1930s, they were coloreds. Okay. And it's like they have like so many identities for us as a people, to my colleagues. If you can understand what we've been going through as a people here in our landmass. When they came here, for instance, if you read the definition of American, my colleagues, it says, and this is the 1828 dictionary. So this is, within those time span. This is the dictionary they were using. American originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper color races found here by the Europeans. Now, if you look at me, my colleagues, copper, I am copper. If you pick up a penny and I put it on my forehead, that's copper color. It's a brown. Copper is brown. So there's many shades of brown. We're here. Okay. So this is our identity has been like hidden. And it's been such a huge secret, my colleagues. When they first came here and arrived, we were Aboriginals because we're from this soil. We were here. We greeted them. Right. After that, then they began calling us Indians. All right. And then when they got the pure white to be the Indian by sticking with white people to white it out, to have more European features, and said they're the Indian. Okay, a mixed person of brown blood and white European blood is the Indian. And they left the darker one as Negro on the reservation. So the darker one on the reservation was the Negro Indian, basically black Indian. And then you had your white Indians. So now I say this because in our history, they never teach us, they kept it a secret. The Aboriginal copper color races. It clearly tells you who was here. My ancestors were here. Okay. My colleagues, everybody on this planet only have one race. We are the only race of people that have 8. And you have been over here in this country, white Europeans, for a very long time. When they got here, as that definition says, we're Aboriginals, then to Indians. Then we went from that, we went from Aboriginals to Indians, right? To coloreds, to Negroes, to blacks, to Afro-Americans, mulattoes. Now they're trying to say African American. And that African American was the dagger for us because we knew that as a people that we weren't from Africa. I'm like, why are they saying we from Africa? That's like so racist to say that we're from Africa just because we have brown skin. No one ever spoke about a history of being African and my family at dinner tables at all. No, not even a history of slavery. And my grandmother would know, being born in 1930. And, the only thing they ever spoke about was the fact that we were Indians, but they kept it quiet because we then learned that We weren't allowed to say we were Indians, as we would get beat and hung. But by our own people would beat us and hang us. We had to say we were Negroes or color.
Facts. And then and listen, Walter Plecker, the 1724 Christian color codes that affected those brothers and sisters in those southern counties, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, a lot of these particular things. You see what I'm saying? So we got to understand who we are as a people. Later on, Walter Plecker in the Racial Integrity Act. You feel what I'm saying? Making it one classification. That was eugenics. Making this white race and anybody else that ain't white gets thrown in the pot, heated up and stirred around till it looked colored. And that's how they came up with this colored thing. You see what I'm saying? That was taken away from our true indigenous nationalities, our traditional folk ways and cultures. We're all the same people ethnically, but culturally and customs sometimes it may differ, you know. So shout out to the people that's on the path of waking up.
Yes.
Keep doing what you're doing, Sister Beth. You have came a long way, Sister Beth.
I did.
You
Oh
really
my goodness.
did.
Thank you. They're hitting the like. So I seen it went up to 1,200. So I'm learning. I'm getting it.
You got 1,200 likes, man. Hit that like button,
Yeah.
man. Get 2,000 likes in the building before we get out of here, y'all.
So I'm saying that to say this to my colleagues, when I'm teaching on my segment, it's not being racist. It's telling the truth. For number one, these Pan-Africans that are going around, like I told you, they're wanting to fight for reparations. We are fighting against that. Because number one, they need to go to Britain. It's literally.
Who's trying to get reparations?
This African American movement that's going around saying that they were slaves here on the mainland in the United States. And when slavery took place, the United States wasn't even in existence. It was the 13 colonies, and those were owned by the British. It wasn't the United States when we expanded it to the 50 states. It was the 13 colonies, and they're coming up, barking up the wrong tree for reparations, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, they is. And like I said, it needs to be a true spokesperson in the lead, in the forefront, because we're not saying, Sister Bethy, that our people don't need to be compensated and don't need to have things restored and need to have land given back to them with natural rights and things so we can drink and eat natural food and drink natural water. We're not saying that. We're saying that the way you're going about it is in an immature, lack of understanding who we are way. We're not going to get reparations or compensation for a slave-based narrative when majority of our people are finding out in their genealogy there wasn't even slaves.
Correct.
You see what I'm saying?
Right. And so what I'm saying to my colleagues across these 50 states, what I'm saying to you, I am asking and pledging that you join me in this lawsuit already in existence, because we are fighting to stop the reparation movements under African American, because we work hard. And if the United States honors such, which I know they're not, because even the federal government already knows, and they're not going to honor it.
They could be a simple switch, Sister Bethy. They can just simply remove African off of the name and just leave us as the Americans.
Well, here's the thing. It's right now on the books as African American. You can't just move that, and you got to file something differently. And I'm fighting against that tooth and nail on the federal books, in court, in Congress. They're saying African American. I will not allow that, which is why I'm moved in the direction that I did.
That's that HR 40 plan, right? That you're talking about.
Right. Yes, Sheila Jackson supposedly stepped away and Cory Booker stepped in. So what we did was served him as well, because we're not going fighting for African reparations. If they want African reparations, they better go to Africa or they better go to Britain because those are our tax dollars. As American Indians, this is our land. We want our own reparations. As for who we are, I will not ask them to switch it because there's always something in the cookie jar. I am against it. And I'm asking all my political colleagues to look into it. If you need a copy of the lawsuit, I'm more than willing to send it to you so you can read the history about it. And I'm asking my colleagues across the 50 states to join me in this fight against these Pan-Africans trying to get on our tax dollars. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's cap.
Colonization and indoctrination is what they hitting our people with. So yeah, man. Shout out to everybody that's in the building, man. We got a lit house in here tonight.
Yes.
This evening.
As far as I'm concerned, it's a bunch of angry black men with heavy criminal backgrounds that's miserable, and they'll do anything in their power or join any movement to get money. And that's just not going to go down. That will not be the recording of my history. I am American Indian, my colleagues. I say this to you, and I want to be respected as one.
Right. As an American Indian, or as an American, or as an Aboriginal, whatever term of indigenous enunciation that you want to go with. And so we want to be recognized not as a dead version, not as a artificial entity, but as a live flesh and blood living.
Correct. And so I'm saying this to my colleagues. I'll be talking about and educating, from the beginning again on this story as you join me. I just can't take it anymore. And there's no need for me to debate and argue with my people who continuously say that they're African. At this point, they know they're not African, but they rather be it because they think that this government is literally going to give them money, which is very sad.
They heavily affected Sister Betty, and this is why we do what we do to wake these brothers and sisters up that has this strong opinion of being lost, right? That come and attack us for giving the truth. It's almost like a form of Stockholm syndrome. They are loyal to their abuser. You understand me? And this system of colonization have abused our people to the point that has set up this system of repatriation from a land that you never even went to, that you never even came from. They want you to go somewhere so they can have your land of milk and honey to themselves. This is a tactic by colonization. They do anything for the bag. What's the easiest way to get the indigenous peoples unattached from their land, to tell them that they're not from here? And that's what has happened. My bad, Sister Betty. Shout out to Sister Betty in the building.
No, I get it. You're actually right. I think I got
not a coincidence. You are a colonizer sympathizer, brother. And we here to go against that system that has been trying to hide our history, brother.
Facts. So what I want to share with you, my audience and my colleagues, smash the like button. Thank you so much. What I want to share with you and go through with you is the censuses that literally only speaks about 2 races of people until the 1900s when Asians, people such as Japanese and Chinese, actually came to the Americas. Prior to that, they were not recorded. Any Asians were recorded on any of our census sheets as a country. This is why I said it's so critical to understand who the Indian is. They're only speaking about two races of people, the Europeans who came here from Europe and the Negroes who were already here. The census sheet tells it all, because even our census sheets only speaks about two races of people the whole time. And I would like to go through that and show you. I'm going to start off with the 1790 census, the very first census prior to Indians being citizens, we being citizens. And the 1790 census consists of free white people. So let me show you, and slaves. So let me do a share screen, my colleagues. So we have the first Congress schedule of the whole number of persons within the division allotted, okay? And on it, this is 1790, all it was, this first top row here that you see, is the names of the families. And it was free white males of 16 years and upwards, including heads of families. And then they have free white males under 16 years. And then they have free white females, including heads of families, and all other free persons. And then they have the last column for slaves. Okay. This is the 1790 census. Okay. They didn't even identify who the slaves were, which is why I said, for the most part, they were pretty much white slaves that worked for these people in their colonies, because they, started coming over shortly. Now, we move to the 1860 census. Okay? If you look at this 1860 census, I think I can make this a little bit bigger to my colleagues. Uh-oh, I made it smaller. Let's get bigger. Let's bring it up to 155. I think that'll do it. So this is the 1860 census. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's the 1850 census right here. Okay. Free inhabitants enumerated by me on, this is what it's saying. When you get over here, it gives you the description of the people. The enumerators, they had to come around and give a description of the people. They wanted the age, the sex, and the color of the person. If they were white, you put white. If they were black, you put a B. And if they were mulatto, you put an M. That's it. They're only talking about two races of people. White people and black people again. Even though mulatto is mixed, which is a white person and a black person. We're using modern day language. And regular language, it would be a white person, an Indian, or a mulatto, which would be half white and half black. Same thing. They just said that they made the white person the Indian. Now, if you get, we get to the 1860 census, okay? It was number 9 on the 1860 census. And these are the instructions under heading 6, entitled color. In all cases where the person is white, they said leave it blank. Don't put nothing in there, because this is when they officially made the white person the Indian, because they're mixed. And you're going to see that in a minute. In all cases where the person is white, leave the space blank. In all cases where the person is black, without admixture, insert the letter B. If a mulatto or of mixed blood, write M. If an Indian, write IND. It is very desirable to have these directions carefully observed. So now they're not naming the white person no more as white person. They inserted it as an Indian. And that's when they took the whites took over the original identity of the Indians. What the United States did was copy what the Indians did by calling the person frequently of white features. They inserted them in there at this time at 1860. So now the person that was a Negro who's Indian on the reservation, when they got off the reservation, they made them as black people. They took away the Negro and made him a black, even though Negro means black in Spanish. But that's what they did. They took away of the fact that the Negro was the Indian or even black. On the reservation, the Negro's the Indian. But off the reservation, he's a black now. So now he can be enumerated. And we'll get into that. So now, here again is the definition of American. A native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper colored races found here by the Europeans. So now my ancestors are no longer the Negroes, Indians that they were. They're black. So it was originally applied to us. So now it says, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. And as you can see, they left the white blank and made the white person the Indian of the American, which is the Indian is the American. Because it tells you the Aboriginals was the American. It was originally us. But now it's applied to Europeans born in America because they made the white person the Indian. Can you see that at power?
Yes, I can.
So now, this is what the things that I'm teaching what they did to our ancestors. Now, still no talking about it. 1870. Now we're in 1870. Color. Now they're saying this because now they got that mixed Indian. It must be assumed that where nothing is written in this column, white is to be understood. The column is always to be filled. Now they're saying, now you put the pure white in there. They want the pure white person on the census now. Be particularly careful in reporting the class mulatto. The word is here generic and includes quadroons, octoroons, and all persons having any perceptible trace of now African, which was not even used back then on any records. So what they did was took modern language and backdated into 1870. We were never, ever identified as Aboriginals. We went from being Aboriginals to the Americas to Africans. They're trying to take us off our land. Can you see where they did that, ad power?
It's a little small, but yeah, I see what you got on the screen. If you can make it just a little larger, because I know the people probably in the chat can't see it. So you can just make it a little larger. Maybe like 175, 200 we go.
Okay. Zoom it.
It's real small. There we go. It's a little better. Yep.
Let me see if I can make it better. How's
Boom.
that?
Perfect. Fantastic.
See? Right now, 1860, they said leave it blank. 1850, they said leave it blank. Now they're saying, They're saying in 1870, it must not be assumed that where nothing is written in this column, white is to be understood. The column is always to be filled. So now they got to put white in there because the pure white they want in there. Because now they done made the person with white features the Indian. Because they got the Negro blood, the remote degree of blood in them. And it says, be particularly careful in reporting the class mulatto. The word is here generic and includes quadroons, which is Like, how many ancestors away is that? That would be 4, right? Quadroons, octoroons, and all persons having any perceptible trace now of African blood. How do you go from being an Aboriginal to a Negro Indian to now an African? You're still trying to change who we are right there, my colleagues. Important scientific results depend on the correct determination of this class and schedule. So now, did you want to say something, Bab?
No, my bad.
So now, here we are in 1880. Still not talking about no other race of people, no Chinese, no Asians, or nothing. So now it goes into 1880 census. Indians. It says, by the phrase Indian not tax, is meant Indians living on reservations under the care of government agents or roaming individually or in bands over settled tracts of country. Now, we're not on reservations. We that fought in the Civil War, we are the roaming individual ones because we're not on the reservations. So we're in like all the city hoods and all of this stuff, or living. We were by then already. It's 1880. 1880. It's after Reconstruction, and it's also way after the Indian Removal Act. Many of us stayed as roaming individual Indians, and whatever state we were in, we decided to stay in 1830 and not go to Oklahoma. So on that note, we became the roaming individually Indians in the states. And if we established our tribe, we were the ones in bands or over settled tracts of country. And then my colleagues, Indians, not in tribal relations, that's us, whether full bloods or half breeds. Okay. Now, here's what I want you to catch. When we're talking, when we're reading on the Five Civilized Tribes report, the only people that were on there that they spoke about were whites and Negroes. So that's who they're talking about here. They gave no other race of a report of race of people. Indians, not in tribal relations, whether full bloods or half breeds, who are found mingle with white population, residing in white families, engaged as servants or laborers, or living in huts or wigwams on the outskirts of towns or settlements are to be regarded as part of the ordinary population of the country for the constitutional purpose of the apportionment of representatives among the states and are to be embraced in the enumeration. So now that they have us listed on the census sheet as blacks, and because we are the ones, the individual Indians living, and we are now to be enumerated because we're living within the confines of the 50 states. So this is how they got us to be taxed, because they didn't identify us as who we were, the Indians, to not be taxed. Do you see that at power?
Yep.
So now that's 1880. Now, my colleagues, we're in 1890. Okay.
Color, sex, and age.
Yeah, I'm going to make this a little bigger, like Ab told me. Now we have other races of people here. This is truly, let me bring it down so you can see it. This is the 11th Census of the United States, 1890. And in the instructions, it says whether white, black, mulatto, quadroon, octoroon. Now the Chinese people are here, Japanese or Indian. Okay. So now we have other races here because we're in 1890. We have Asian people here, which is why it was so hard to believe that the Indians they portray today that have Asian features are the Indians, but they agree that they're Asian. And it says white, black, mulatto, quadroon, octoroon, Chinese, Japanese, or Indian, according to the color or race of the person enumerated. Be particularly careful to distinguishing between blacks, mulattoes, quadroons, and octoroons. Why so? The word black should be used to describe those persons who have 3/4 or more black blood. Now it's black blood. Mulatto, those persons who have from 3/8 to 5/8 black blood. Quadroon, those persons who have 1/4 black blood, and octoroon, those persons who have 1/8 or any trace of black blood. So now, this is how you know the black was always the Indian. Because if you look at the Indian censuses and the Indian rolls, everything was based on how much of that Indian blood you had, which was the Negro. And they're doing it here too. Only they're using black instead of Negro. I got to give myself a bomb drop. Because if you look at the Dawes roll, they have 1/8 Indian blood, 1/4, 1/16, 1/32, 1/64. That's a level of octoroon, quadroon. It's there. There it is. It had to be. So the white people on the reservation had to have some remote degree of blood of that Negro. Because Negro and the black is the same person. And they're telling you how a white person have to be named a mulatto or a quadroon or octoroon because of that black blood they have. Never once saying 1/4 Chinese or 1% Japanese to make you an Indian. It was the Negro's blood that did it. Because they're the ones on the Indian law that are the Indian. Now again, American originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper color races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to descendants of Europeans. So they gave the Europeans our ancestors' original identity. And I'm going to stop the share screen right here and take a water break. And I'm going to allow folks to come on the panel because now you can see how our original identity was taken from under our feet.
Mm-hmm.
They took the Indian away from us and made us the black. Even though we're the roaming
Negro, the
Indian.
black, the Negro, they made us the Negro, the black, the color, and now the African American.
Correct. So I'm going to take a few second break and allow some of my colleagues to come on the panel. Now, my colleagues, sometimes they can get a little misbehaved, but I'm going to control it to the best of my ability. And I'm going to ask if you come up here with no name calling, for real, because I want my colleagues to understand my history. And I'm so glad you guys are out here with me. So at BAP, you could take this is like an intermission break, and I'll just give them something funny to laugh at.
That's fine.
I'll be back. I'm gonna play a little song.
Hey, can this here. Y'all make sure y'all go follow Aboriginal Power on YouTube. Go follow Aboriginal Power on YouTube.
Hi, is that you, Sharice?
Yes, peace, Sister Bethy. How you doing?
Oh, good. Okay, I could take this down. I wasn't sure if that was you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm good.
Great. I'm happy to be up here. Peace to everybody in the chat.
Let me see you
Um,
smoke. Go ahead, sweetheart.
okay, so I just wanted to share something that I found real quick, because I know you guys touched on white slavery in America. And I think this thing has been like a huge topic that we all been discussing and talking about.
Hey, smoke. Turn your camera on. I don't know if that's you. Go ahead, Sharice, sweetheart. I'm sorry.
So I found this
Okay.
article called
Okay.
Oh, and peace to BAP too. Peace BAP. So I found this article called Slaves of a Different Color. And the article is by a gentleman named Stephen Talty. So I'm just going to go real quick to like one part that I had found interesting. So he stated, I don't know how to share my screen and stuff yet. I'm not all that technology savvy, but I'm going to get there eventually. But it says, I discovered that there was a strong anecdotal evidence of whites being kidnapped or sold into slavery from the early 1700s to the Civil War. Some were orphans, others poor immigrants or unwanted illegitimate babies. Some were snatched off country lanes, their skin dyed to look black. Some were sold ostensibly as light mulattoes. A white woman was even sold down the river by her husband, followed by her children, to a Georgia preacher. There were court cases, including the notorious 1844 New Orleans case of Sally Miller, a German child sold as a mulatto. There were newspaper accounts, sightings of white slaves, and Southern travel memoirs, including Frederick's Law Olmsted's influential The Cotton Kingdom and the African slave narratives, the African American slave narratives attesting to white slavery.
Wow. Where are you reading that from, sweetheart?
So I found this article
I'm gonna teach you how to
online.
do a share
This was
screen.
published June 15th, 2000, y'all.
I'm gonna teach you how to share screen. Okay. You see at the
might
are
be
you
on
on
the
your
phone.
cell phone? Are you on your cell
Yeah,
phone
I'm on
or
my
your computer?
phone, y'all. So
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know how to do it from
So
the
once
cell
I
phone.
get to my laptop and figure all this stuff out, like I will
I'll-
definitely show it to y'all.
Yeah, that's awesome. You could also put a copy of it, of the link to that article in the chat if you want. It's up to you.
Oh yeah.
Papa Legba is Aboriginal. You need to show your face.
No, that's King Cass.
I
Oh
wonder
no,
why my picture
I
ain't on
ain't
there.
gotta look. I already know
not
who it is.
today. Not today.
Oh,
Sorry, honey.
please, Lord.
It's all about Aboriginals up here, honey. Sorry. Not today, baby. Truth, is that you? Because what people are doing is making copies of your avatars. Okay, baby. Oh, we know you fine. There he is.
Hey,
What
I
people
dropped
are the
I
reason
dropped that
why
article
I
for.
oh nice. The reason why I ask in the background when you're up here in the back to show, because people are now copying like your avatar, like your face app, and they'll come in the back and I think it's you and it's not. And then they'll porn bomb me. So now, oh, there's Sharice. Did she fall off? Is that you again, Sharice? Is that you, Sharice?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, yes. So that's why I asked. King Cass, I'm sorry. I have all my colleagues up here from all over political. And I'm sorry, I will not allow any Pan Africans up on my panel today. Sorry, not today. It's all about us teaching my colleagues, who predominantly all of them are white Europeans, and we're teaching them what we know. And there are other people of other races and culture as well. And we want to keep it professional. But go ahead, Truth, you got it.
No, I was just I'm gonna jump back up. I just came and dropped that article that the sister was talking about in the
Oh,
back.
you put it in the
Yes,
bag?
bless you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
Okay, so
I got some more in depth stuff that article is speak like the stuff that it's speaking about. I got the actual sources of some of the things it's speaking about, but that's on my laptop and I ain't home right now. So I just wanted to bring that up to y'all, man. Peace, man. You know, I'll jump back up here in a second. I'm gonna fall back to the chat.
okay, so sis, I don't know if you want me to share it. I got it up or no.
You can. I mean, I
But
don't hold it.
I don't want to read and get hoarse voice. Oh, the ab go? Oh, he must have got a phone call. That's why he fell off.
No, I'm right here.
Oh my boy. Oh my boy Truth left. Damn. So I'll share it. I mean, you read it, but at least the audience will be
Yeah,
able to
can
see it.
see.
Right, where
Mm-hmm.
you was reading from. So if you don't mind reading it again, it's real short.
Yeah, I just took like caught a little excerpt because I was like, dang, that's crazy. And this is in the year 2000. I was 10
Yeah.
years old.
Wow. I was 15.
Hmm. I was a young girl, so I
You don't
already
believe
know.
me. You don't believe me, do you?
Nah, I just said, I don't do that to, a lady, a lady never do that to another lady, okay?
But here it goes. It says Slaves of a Different Color. So, and it's by Stefan Tatley. So she's right when saying it was published in June 15th, 2000. So you can read this, sister. Is it big enough for you to read, or I need to make it bigger?
You gotta make it
I
bigger.
definitely make it bigger because I was gonna say I'll just
How's that?
great. You want me to start from the top of it all or just read the part that I had read?
No, to start from the top.
Awesome.
You got
Okay.
it, sis.
If you hear the words white slavery these days, it's probably as a punchline to an unsavory joke about female college students being shenaniged and sold into Arabian harems, or in a remark by some amateur historian talking about the scandal of the young turn of the century prostitutes who were called, with a dash of hysteria, white slaves. In any case, this term loaded is a metaphor at best and a racy urban myth at worst, because there were never any real white slaves in America, right? Actually, wrong. In writing a book on the mixing of black and white life throughout American history, I discovered that white slavery did occur before the Civil War in small but significant numbers. And in in unearthing this fascinating lost chapter in American history, I also discovered how slavery has been partitioned into a piece of African American cultural property made sacred by Black Americans, abandoned by whites. Petrified by politics and shame, the richest and most central dramedy. Lord, that's not what that say. The richest and most central drama of early American history is now playing two segregated houses. My history lesson began innocently enough. Deep in the stacks of the Brooklyn Public Library, I stumbled on a chapter in J.A. Rogers' obsessive, well-documented, and slightly weird book, Sex and Race, called Whites Sold as Negro Slaves. The title seemed crackpot sinister and best left alone, but I read Rogers' account, checked out his sources, and delved deeper into the murky history of American slave trading. I discovered that there was strong anecdotal evidence of whites being kidnapped or sold into slavery from the early 1700s to the Civil War. Some were orphans, others were poor immigrants or unwanted illegitimate babies. Some were snatched off country lanes, their skin dyed to look black. Some were sold ostensibly as light mulattoes. A white woman was even sold down by the river sold down the river by her husband, followed by her children to a Georgia preacher. There were court cases, including the notorious 1844 New Orleans case of Sally Miller, a German child sold as a mulatto. There were there were newspaper accounts, sightings of white slaves and Southern travel memoirs, including Frederick Law's Olmsted's influential The Cotton Kingdom and African American slave narratives attesting to white slavery. The numbers are impossible so far to pin down, but some white bondage clearly occurred. In an era when human beings were the most valuable commodities available to thieves and slave traders, greed occasionally trumped the crucial myth that there was a strict dividing lines between the races. And while there were instances of what appeared to onlookers as purebred whites being sold on auction blocks, those Anglo-Saxons those Anglo-Saxons were being sold as blacks. One had to become physically or socially accepted as black to be legally sold into chattel slavery and enter into full degradation of American bondage. As light-skinned blacks sometimes gained their freedom by passing as white, so did hapless Caucasians make the reverse journey, proving that race and bondage were even more fluid concepts in antebellum America than we would like to believe. And the phenomenon was not restricted to the United States. The barbaric captivities narratives recounted in Paul Michael Bell Pear's White Slaves, African Masters, in which European and some Americans described their brutal episode of slavery in courts of Algerian and Moroccan passas, were wildly popular in the 1800s. When I first researched, when I first finished, when I finished my research, I wanted to know why this all history had been forgotten. One scholarly essay published in 1999, Carol Wilson's groundbreaking White Slavery and American Paradox, argues that standard histories have overlooked white bondage, but a part of Rogers' obscure book and one right-wing track discussed below that was it. Some historians I approached were initially shocked. Henry Mayer wrote the definitive biography of abolitionist William Lloyd Garrison, and he knows slavery scholarship code. His voice spiked an octave or two in surprise when I broached the topic. This is the flip side of miscegenation debates about Thomas Jefferson and now George Washington having longtime black mistresses. He said, people have to come to a better understanding of how the slave trade corrupted everybody. Writer and academic Shelby Steele took the news more calmly. It doesn't surprise me, he said. It makes the point that slavery as a compulsion of a man is bigger even than race. But why hasn't it been written about? There was probably a time when whites were ashamed and wanted to suppress it, Steele said, but now it's probably blacks who want to suppress it. Those who are grounded in the idea of black victimization may feel that this weakens their argument. Still located a concern I had ever since I started my research. How would African Americans react to this evidence? When months before I had told John, a white college, I'm sorry, am I going too fast?
No, sweetheart, you're doing wonderful.
Okay. I had told John, a white college friend, what I was working on. He laughed nervously. You can't write about that. He half shouted over the phone, you can't take slavery away from blacks. It's like talking about Catholic nuns killed in the Holocaust. John, who is Jewish, was convinced I was going to be painted as a revisionist right-wing whack job. Nevertheless, I emailed Molefi Kete Asante, the firebrand Afrocentric scholar at Temple University, who has called for reparations to African Americans for slavery. Asante didn't flame me. Perhaps it helped that the first chapter of my book is going to be published in Harvard's Transition magazine, edited by himself and Kwame Anthony Appiah. In fact, Asante sent back cordial notes with a fiery but cogent message at the end. Whatever the extent of white slavery, there were no auction blocks where whites were humiliated and treated like animals. There were no preachers saying that whites did not have souls. There were no biologics trying to prove that whites were like the lowest animals. There were no laws that would have put whites in slavery perpetually or perpetuity. Whites were apparently sold on auction blocks, but Asante's larger point was dead on. Traders stole some white bodies, but the philosophers of slavery denigrated the black soul. But why had history gone unrecorded? There are several possible explanations. Slavery was overwhelmingly African American, so that's where early scholarship was directed. The evidence of Anglo-Saxon captives was anecdotal. It was impossible that some accounts of white slavery were abolitionist hype, though the abolitionists never pushed the issue and seemed only embarrassed by it. Miscegenation made it very Miscegenation made very light-skinned slaves a common sight in the South, confusing the issue, and perhaps shame played a role as well. Early historians may have been more comfortable overlooking evidence of whites selling their own. If the scholars responded calmly, the reaction I got from friends and ordinary Americans were more heated. One African American friend, Nia, a young woman from the South with a master's degree in American studies, threw up her hands. Who cares, she said. It certainly doesn't compare to the millions and millions of Africans who suffered through the Middle Passage and were brutalized on a foreign soil for generations and generations. They was even confused back then. I was not suggesting that white slavery was comparable to black slavery. That would be absurd. And my interest in the subject was not exculpatory. I wanted to know how and why white slavery happened, how poor whites reacted to the kidnappings, and what it all said about the culture. It shows that our perceptions about race and slavery cannot be as rigid as we have wanted them to be, said historian Wilson. Just as blacks could be free and landowners and prosperous, whites could be enslaved, even if it was a rare event. But for many African Americans, the subject touches a raw nerve. A few people I corresponded with questioned the motives of those bringing out this new evidence, including mine. It smells revisionism, wrote one member of the African American message board on which I had posted a request for comment. For another, it confirmed old stereotypes. It just shows the devious mindset of white people, as they say, as the saying in the hood is, they sell out their mama for $1. Many of the responses I got from African Americans were receptive to the idea of white slavery, even to the idea of including the accounts in written history. Slavery was utilized for primarily economic reasons, wrote a consultant to African American social agencies. If black folks hadn't been available, it could have very well been more of the poor white immigrants. But some worried that the evidence could give white people out of African American, hold up, give and white giving out, oh shit. But some worried that the evidence would give white people an out for African American suffering in slavery. I can hear it now on Jerry Springer, where white people were slaves too, Nia emailed me. We hear it anyway when folks talk about Sudanese slavery. Can Negroes get a damn apology first for that shit before whites jump on the slave ship? White Americans, on the other hand, seem not at all galvanized by the news. Though I do consider slavery a tragedy, I do not feel any guilt for what my forefathers did, wrote one historian Buff from Iowa. This has been going on since the beginning of time. We have to get on with life and remember that the past is the past. In fact, the most passionate response came from the very kind of Aryan brothers my friend John had warned me about, people like Michael A. Hoffman II. In 1991, the Sestile revisionist historian wrote a book called They Were White and They Were Slaves, in which he recounted the dehumanizing abuse that white indentured servants who were sometimes referred to as slaves suffered in colonial America and instances of them being swindled into lifelong servitude. The book is a compendium of quotes pulled from the 17th and 18th century documents without much historical context, but it's marked by a clear obsession with the subject. Hoffman's other books include Hate Whitley, The Sentiment of Defamation, the only publication tracking Hollywood's psychological war against whites, Christians, Germans, and Gentiles. He believed that crimes and oppression of white working people are ongoing, as he emailed me from Idaho. And who's leading the cover up of this oppression? the professorcrats, the media dorks, and the government hacks who tragic and demagogic appeals to black bigots and white liberal self-hate. Hoffman's far right followers need little hard evidence to get misty about injustices perpetrated on their kin. But how would ordinary, decent white Americans react to the news? What struck me as I read through the responses of the people I contracted in whose family trees there might lurk, who knows, a lost blue eyed slave, was how divorced they were from the issue of slavery. They were sorry it happened, yes, but they were unimpassioned, aloof. Perhaps that's natural. The memory of suffering always burns brightest in the minds of victims and their descendants and fades among whose ancestors carried the whip. Even when the table is abruptly turned and white Americans like me presented with the possibility, however slim, that their kin might have been slaves and not masters, barely a flicker of emotion arises. Whites, except for those on the fringe, just can't imagine an America in which whites were the victim of blind greed and soullessness. It isn't our place, never has been. On the subject of slavery, whites have ceded the playing field to blacks and quietly walked away. Even the offer of seeing oneself in a mirror, but completely new, Rose failed to pique interest. I asked historian Mayer about the insidious idea that slavery belongs only to Black Americans. This whole business of slavery as Black cultural property is fairly new, said Mayer. It's part of the whole kind of enclave identity politics we're caught up in. It hasn't always been so. The view of slavery has gone through many phases. In academia, early 20th century Southern scholars argued that slavery was a positive, civilizing influence. Mid-century historians then blew that racist theory apart with studies that emphasized the system's power to strip blacks of culture and self-worth. More recently, scholars have explored slave resistance, surviving African traditions, and the strong family cohesiveness of the slave community. In contemporary popular culture, interest in slavery clearly peaked with Roots, but it has dived to the box office nadir with films like Rosewood and Amistad. Personal stories like those captured in memories like Ed Ball's Slaves in the Family still engage a wide multiracial audience. Broader studies rarely do. But the image of slavery still burns in the issue of Black incarceration, in the ongoing debate about reparations, and in Black centric hip hop. Listen to Dead Prez's brilliant CD, Let's Get Free, for a vision of America as a digital age plantation, and the metaphor has suffered reckless abuse at the hands of prominent Blacks. Prince shaved the word slave on his cheek during his dispute with white owned record company, and the New York Knicks, Larry Johnson, called his team rebel slaves during a hard fought playoff series. When even millionaire superstars keep the word fresh in their vocabulary, you know that slavery echoes at all levels of Black America. Some of the responses I received from African Americans fit in with Mayer's point about slavery as a Black possession and trying to explain her discomfort with the new evidence about white slaves. One Black friend told me about a joke she heard growing up. There's an old Black woman on the bus. A roach has crawled onto her shoulder. A white lady spots it, walks over to the woman, and gently reaches out and removes the vile insect. The African American granny recoils. Damn, she says, Black people can't have nothing of their own. Or as Nia wrote me almost plaintively, can we at least have slavery? African Americans do have slavery. It has become a sacred grove in Black memory. White Americans, on the other hand, gladly gave up all claims on it years ago, as if shuffling of a bad family debt. Could admitting the white captive into the story of slavery play any role in changing that? Blacks might have to give up the exclusivity of their suffering, but they would see farther into the heart and mind of the slave empire, witnessing, for example, how American elites so often turn poor Blacks and whites against each other. Whites could emerge from their Whites could emerge from their numbed boredom, their conviction that the only response to the subject is guilt or secret resentment, and encounter slavery more as the complex historical phenomenon it was, and less like the collective crime it has come to be characterized as. Ironically, if anything, the existence of white slavery highlights the deep connection between black and white, as does the relationship between Sally Hemings and Thomas Jefferson, as does the story of African American Civil War patriots, as does the story of blacks and whites coming to Christianity together in the First Great Awakening. The white captive reminds us how wild and gross steep and various were. Wild and grotesque and various the world of slavery was, and how every American has inherited its crazy genes. Like him or not, he belongs to us. Whew, child.
Amazing. You did an amazing job, sister. And I want oh, that's A1. Sorry, I didn't see you back there. That's you, right? A1. Let me just put this up because I want to
I
make
really
sure
want to know
the
why my
screen
picture
works.
ain't showing up. I'm real upset.
Is that you, A1? A1.
Who else would it be?
No, A1. People are taking snapshots of
Nah,
your
I got you.
avatar. Oh, okay.
You good?
Sister,
You
I
good?
got to give you the bomb drops right here. Let me give you your bomb drops.
Yeah, and
Because what
yeah,
this
that was phenomenal right
that
there.
was a phenomenal read, sister. And I hope my colleagues, you guys, understand where I'm coming from. So just by you sharing that article alone, people are coming out to tell the truth with the information they have. So,
Mm-hmm.
with that being said, the Pan Africans got a fight on their hands because now I don't think white people will be so reluctant to come step up and say, "Oh no, the hell you're not." If they can trace their ancestry to slavery, but where was that at?
But you see the game that they playing, right? You see the psychological game that they playing with us. They think because white people saying they were slaves, that's trying to take away from us getting reparations.
Well, it wouldn't be us getting the reparations; it's the Pan Africans.
No, 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 no,
We
no, 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 no. Well, a redress agreements for us, but for them to be reparations for what they claim. But they thinking because white people saying that they trying to hijack their conditions of them being enslaved. Do you see how? Do you see how sick these people are?
I can see, and I see where you're going, but I see exactly where you're going. Like they're saying, okay, we were the slaves, so now you're not getting nothing. That's
Mm-hmm.
I get that, but what I'm saying is, it's just we're saying we're the Indians that were enslaved because we have full history and a plethora of information of
But you
of
don't really, hey,
our
Sister
of
Betty,
our ancestors being taken over out of power as Indians.
but look, Sister Betty, you don't even want to go that route neither because we wasn't slaves. And I know you see that on your
Well,
genealogy. No, no,
look,
hear me out, hear me out, hear me
I,
out, hear me out. I know when you do your genealogy, they telling these stories about, remember, the
right,
Indians are Negroes. The
right,
Negroes the ones who owned the slaves.
correct.
So when they like I did extensive videos on this earlier, like when I first started to come to YouTube on the Indian slave trade. But we kind of find out that that shit is a lie too. And see, they taking certain cases and certain events and trying to apply it to all. You understand what I'm saying? They taking certain cases and certain events. We was the ones that owned the slaves.
I understand that. What I'm saying is the conditions that we're in now, the coercion,
Right.
and the manner in which we lost our land. Had we had our lands as Negroes, aka Aboriginals, we
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be in the position that we're in today. That's what I'm fighting for, because we were supposed to be Indians, not taxed. Back
Mm-hmm.
during that time when they began the taxation, we didn't even do fiat. It wasn't a fiat thing. We traded goods. It was not a money trade. They
Mm-hmm.
brought in that. So we lost our lands based on not having fiat money to pay
Mm-hmm.
taxes. So that's what I'm talking about. We wouldn't be living in the hoods today as a
No,
people.
that's a fact.
We'd
I
be living
understand
in
what
our
you're saying.
land. So that's what I'm fighting for.
Yeah.
And you know, I just think it's we've just been it's been injustice, and for these Pan Africans to go around and continue trying to fight for reparations to assume that permanent racial identity, African, I'm fighting that tooth and nail because you will not do that to my people.
So let me put you on something, right?
Okay.
This bitch ass nigga, Turtle Gang. I'm gonna be on your ass on Sister Betty in her live stream. You bitch ass nigga. I'm gonna be on your, and like I said, I mean, pause, right? But this nigga gonna make a video saying that because he got white people in his family, you know, about the whole white slave trade shit that he didn't agree with. Talking about, oh, slaves, whites wasn't slaves. See, oh my God, I'm gonna go in on these dudes. I'm gonna definitely go in on that bitch ass nigga. And if I see him, if I see Turtle Gang anywhere, it's gonna be a situation. So
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Go ahead, Sharice.
I was just gonna say like this thing about like the word slavery. I just think the way it just sounds so barbaric. Like that's why I always just say like they all were working, they all were, and I just feel like there were different classes of people, and like I mean like you know like it's different class of black and it was different class of white. There were poor whites, there were poor blacks, there were poor blacks, there were poor whites, or whatever, you know, whatever people was identified as. I think there were high class and low class of both. And I don't know, I just think it gets tricky a lot of times when we talk about things like reparations and stuff. I said it before. It's not that I wouldn't want our people to get compensated for whatever claims that are being made, but those claims are going to have to be thoroughly proved as we are continuing to discover that damn, a lot of our ancestors wasn't slaves. So it's like,
Correct.
what the fuck do you do with that? So
Well,
excuse
Okay.
me,
we,
you
we,
know.
But
we
our
take
claim,
away the reasoning, right? Because the reasoning now is because of slavery. It wasn't that we was enslaved. We went through other things. We was misclassified.
correct.
We was
Correct.
killed. We was killed on paper. That's acts
Correct.
against humanity. That has no statute of limitation. We was fraud. They created a
Correct.
taxation federal system and been Indians ever since. It doesn't
Just
have
a
a
minute.
statute of limitation. So these are the things we
Ab.
want to shoot for. My bad.
No, honey. I want you to
Straight
keep
up.
going. A1, I have Turtle Gang. Can you please turn your camera on back here? I want to make sure it's you and I'm not going to get porned. Can I see your face?
That's King Cash, Sister Bethy. I'm telling
Oh,
you.
okay. It's King Cass. All
He's
right.
ready to troll. Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to let him on because I'm really trying to dialogue with my colleagues. Um, Go ahead. If you want to finish ad power, I'm sorry for cutting you off. I just A1 said Turtle Gang, so I thought this might be him. If that's really you, Turtle Gang, let me see your face. You got it, ad power. You were saying, there's other measures that we're seeking for, and I agree. We were forced to go to Oklahoma. Many of us stayed, but as a result of us staying, we ended up losing our farmlands anyway because we didn't have fiat. It wasn't
Well,
something
we got enumerated, but it
correct.
tells you in the law, India is not taxed. They shouldn't even be enumerated. So they,
But
like I said, it was a fraudulent act from the very giddy up. You know.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. They took away our identity as Indian.
but you know how
Um,
that happened though. That happened through the deeds. See, when we signed deeds, that's what put us in our jurisdiction, and they started to enumerate us. That's how they got us.
correct.
They got us through the deeds. The
We were
deeds is what.
already in our jurisdictions. Because they passed the law and said that wherever we stayed, whatever state we were in, that state would have jurisdiction over us and we would be enumerated. Now, you can enumerate us because on the census sheets, they didn't identify us, that they took away our identity as what we were when we were on the reservations. They put us as black. So now you can indeed enumerate the Indian. And I
Yeah,
have that. I just read it.
yeah,
So
that's what they. And you, but I tell you like this too, right? Like, all right, think of it like this, right? At that time, we was segregated. When we segregated, mean we had our own shit. So, you know, from the result of them running into a lot of our towns and putting us under threat, duress, and coercion, people signed them deeds, and that's how they got enumerated. You know what I'm saying? But prior to that, we have always all of like you just said, as far as like our condition now started in like the 1950s, 1950s. I want to say 1950s or around the 40s, maybe 30s, if you will, right? That's when the condition that we currently in actually started. But prior to that, we was the shot callers. They wasn't calling no shots. And see, the thing is, even with this white slavery, right? You know, I don't believe they brought no Africans here, because everybody who previously was African now say they Indian. So that's a law. That's and from my research and from me actually doing a population sample for culture freedom, right, which is 3,500. All 3,500 people say they got Indian in them. All of them say they got Indian in them. So I did a population sample just to show people that, you know, everybody's saying the same thing. But see, a lot of them people is confused because of the images that they get of Native Americans. So a lot of people don't want to say, okay, yeah, well, I'm not an Indian because I don't look like them. That's the whole part of establishing the fact that Negroes was already in America before 1492 or 1619. You know what I'm saying? Because that would give you an understanding. Well, wait a minute. If my people was here, then now I understand what they meant by we being this so-called Indians, right? But that's the game they playing. They even playing the game with the white. All white people were slaves. These white people that's here didn't have no dominion over us. But what happened was when Rome, right? I'm gonna say Rome, but there's a lot of moving parts to Rome, right? Rome is just like, you know, I know Rome sound like a household name and shit, right? But there's a lot of moving parts to Rome, right? When they told them people, if y'all rise up against them, we'll protect you. You see what I'm saying? And other blacks, right? Other blacks or other aborigines, right? Help them do what they did to us. You see what I'm saying? Like when we get into the W.B. Du Bois, the Boule, the Talented 10, all of these people were people who was Negroes, who looked like Negroes, but who had white mothers. A lot of them was enslaved, and a lot of them was fighting against it, but they didn't know that it was going to turn out to be white against black, and they was going to get fucked over at the end. Because even the mulattoes that helped the so-called pale skin, or some of the pale skin, because a lot of them, most of them are mulatto, but they just look more on the white side than they do black. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of them, they didn't know that it was going to be, okay, well, we're going to take over and this is going to be white dominance, or what we call pale skin dominance. And then even the mulattoes who helped them went under, you know what I'm saying? They fell victim to it because they didn't know that they was going to do it like that.
Yeah, because I will say that it's something that I have read about that. You know what I'm saying? Just like about when the races was mixing, and at that time it was. I think a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but and I wouldn't be surprised. Like I saw it in my genealogy as well. So it's like I don't think people could get away with it. But I didn't mean to cut you off, A1. I just want to say this one. I just want to say this one little thing.
Who is it? Who is that?
Huh?
I mean, I'm sorry. You know, Ahanu Kiel. Who are you?
Oh, I'm Sharice. I don't know why my picture is not showing.
Hold up, Sharice. Who? Oh, that's Sharice. Oh, okay, all right. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
You sound lovely reading now. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so yeah, she did an excellent job. So, Straight Smoke, you've been quiet for a minute. Did you want to say something before I move into something else to share with my colleagues?
Well, I did want, thank you, Sister Bethy. I did want to go in about what Sharice had read. A lot of people don't know about the orphan train system that was set up. And the first orphanage that was in 1729. and how they initially ran orphans all across these Americas through the railing system all the way, and that stopped in like 1929. So they was taking kids and shipping them across the Americas to different places. Even where I live at in Kentucky, they have a wall built here stating the orphans that was brought to this particular land in Kentucky through the orphan trainage. So white slavery was very real.
Yes, they did speak about that and taught about that. I think A1 was probably or I can't remember if it was A1 or Chief Holiday that spoke about white slavery, and also I think Dane probably did too. Whether here or there, it's been frequently taught about this whole issue. That's why he says history was taught in reverse a lot. So I heard it from all three brothers. Um, the next thing, my colleagues, I just want to let them know this before I get off here. I'm still going to be on. Just give me a minute. I wanted to introduce my colleagues to my website. I have two websites. And the first website I'm going to share with you is Copper Color Chronicles. It's my newspaper. Every month I drop a newspaper covering, everything that I've talked about on my panel. And that I'm going to give it to you right now. Copy. I'm going to put this link in the chat. Paste. It's my newspaper, and I'm going to do a share screen. Like this, because my colleagues are not even aware of any of this. So I'm sharing this with you guys today. This is my newspaper page. It's Copper Colored Chronicles, and it goes along with our nation, but it's a separate website. On the homepage, it just gives you a little brief history about us. Nothing racist. We're just teaching our people about our history historically. If you want to be on our distribution list, so you get reminders that the new newspaper is up, you can put your name and email and and hit the robot. And of course, if you I always ask, if you're going to donate, just hit this red button right here to help us keep us going. The next tab is the newspaper. So every month, so by the 5th, I try to get the newspaper uploaded, and you could read it, you could download it, whatever you want. But every month by the 5th, there's a newspaper in our website. The next tab is articles and lectures. If you, my colleagues, write articles, you're welcome to send them to me, and I can upload them. Like Charles Privilege is a historian in Bridgeport. He wrote 2 articles, and I uploaded them. They're great reads. And I also, the lectures I give on my channel, when I do my slides, I can I upload them here because a lot of people want my slides. So you can download it. Let me stop sharing for a minute. I got to learn how to do this without doing that. I'm going to present this and take you to the slide. When you hit the button, my slides come up, and it's what I cover on YouTube when I come live. Normally I have slides, and you'll be able to go here to this particular, let me get back to where we were, to that tab. That's where you would get the articles from. Share screen, get back. And then that's the article section. So if you wrote an article, as my colleagues, it doesn't matter where you're here, whether you're in this country or not, I'll upload it. And I'm also going to put blogs down here for you to communicate with other people in reference to a particular article. I provide genealogy services. So if you want your genealogy done, I started back this year conducting genealogy. I do it privately in Zoom. So you fill it out, and we'll be in touch with you to schedule a date where we could do it privately in Zoom. And you can invite your family members into that Zoom, no matter how many. The most I had was 60 people in the Zoom doing their genealogy for them. If you have a business and you would like to promote your business, I can put the link here to your website. You need to get that to me. And also, you could just contact us. You won't be able to contact us. This will be a different tab. So I want to stop that share screen and take you to my actual website of who we are. And that would be here. Log in. Oh my goodness. Sorry, guys. I got to get the website up. Okay, I got it up. All right, this is our actual tribal website. And I'm going to share that now while all my colleagues are on. This is our tribal website. It's thewyanation.com. Copy. And I put that in the chat as well, where you can read about us. This is our homepage. It is a brief history. And it's always updated. And this is about us. That's when we went to deliver our lawsuit in DC from the Department of Education for the false teachings about our history. These are our tribal governments. All of our chiefs are here. You can read a little bit about them and their backgrounds. Okay. And then this is for our members only. These are for members of our tribes. You don't have to worry about that. And again, you could register for genealogy here, get on the distribution list, and you could attend our Zoom meetings because we teach you how to reestablish your family tribes. This is our gallery when we had our first powwow in South Carolina, and it'll be again this year in South Carolina again. And again, you could contact us by typing your name. And you can write us something. Also, this is our political action page for us our declarations up here for the individual. And when we want to address specific political leaders, we'll upload stuff on there. And this is the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, the UNDRIP, ADRIP. That's this tab right here, if you could download it and read about it. So again, and you can also hit the donation buttons because we're always looking for people to donate to help us as a tribe, as a nation. With that being said, does anybody else have anything that they wanted to share?
Sister Bethy, if you could drop the Copper Color Chronicles link in the chat.
It's in there. I'm looking at it right now. I can pin it to the top.
It's in the main chat?
Yes.
I see the Wyatt Nation.
Okay.
Link.
I'll pin it.
Yes, ma'am.
It's pinned to the top, the Copper Color Chronicles one. And the Wyatt Nation one is to read about us. That's in there. That's in there too.
Hey, Sister Betty, let me say something real quick.
I can't believe my colleagues are still in here and didn't leave yet.
Now I'm about to spin off. I gotta go do something. But listen, to the brother in the chat room saying Indian slavery didn't happen. Now I'm not saying this to be I'm not saying this to be what's the word I'm looking for? Arrogant, right? But I have done extensive research on Indian slavery, and I don't believe it. And the reason why I don't believe it because I know our ancestors was running shit.
Well, no.
I'm not saying that to you. I'm not saying that to you. Somebody in the chat room just said, now Indian slavery didn't happen. Now you gotta kind of let's sit here real quick and think about this, right? Number one, white people didn't come here and colonize nothing. So now we could throw that out. So who was the people who was doing the colonizing? It was other Negroes. These other Negroes, where they came from Europe, they didn't have no dominion over this land. Whoever the Mama Namatak means chief of chief and kings of kings. Whoever the Mama Namatak was, they allowed them to come here. These people, these Europeans that came here didn't come here and take over nothing. They came here asking for refuge from our people. They didn't have no power or no dominance over our people. So now when you do see Indian slavery, I had to kind of double down on this because it just didn't make no sense. A lot of our people didn't get forced from the areas. A lot of our people still was in. You still got family members who live in the same areas where they always lived. Yes, a lot of us did make the Great Migration. Yes, some people did go to Oklahoma.
Yeah, I was about to.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But
my family was actually burned out their house, and they came to Connecticut, and that happened in 1929. They were burned out and forced, and we came to Connecticut in 1929, and we've been here ever since. So we were forced out. We were told to get out.
And look at that. Look
off
at
our land. So
look at the timeline.
What I'm saying is, we need to explain and teach what slavery is. Now, slavery could be imprisonment. That's one, but everybody doesn't have an understanding of what slavery actually is, and it is employment. And then we show that today. If you are a slave owner, they just changed the word from slavery to employment. And same thing, like me, I give myself as a prime example. I'm an indentured servant. I have a contract. Okay. I even have it in my title. I'm a public servant. I work for the state. So I'm an indentured servant, really, in modern day times. I get paid for what I do. I get paid for what I do.
Your indenture is different than the European indenture, because the European, see, the confusing part is this, right? Couldn't nobody own land here if you wasn't in a top time. So the Europeans, the reason why a lot of them went back and came back to the plantations, because they couldn't own no land. That's why we were sending people out west. And yeah, you can have whatever you want out west. Cool. Yo, you gonna go out west? All right. You can have whatever you find out there in that desert, but you can't have shit here. That's why after 1865, a lot of white people went back to the plantations where we was at, because they couldn't own nothing. That was our universal law. Couldn't no foreigner own land in America. And whoever sold a foreigner land, it was off with his head or off with her head. So that like we have a lot of different narratives. And I'm just saying this is not, I'm not gonna say my opinion, but this is just like a concept that I had to formulate from the research that I've done. Because you got to understand, a lot of this research we do, they're not gonna hold your hand with it. You gotta go out there and you have to put the evidence together, and you have to piece together the evidence and come up with the conclusion. And I'm not saying, like, you know, as far as us, we seasoned veterans when it comes to this. We well advised. We done seen a lot of this. We done heard a lot of different talking points. And at this point in time, it's like more of the process of elimination. Now I have to eliminate that because that don't sound. When I did my genealogy, right, for example, right, my grandfather owned over 1,000 acres from Florida into what is now known Georgia. When my aunt sold like 700 acres. She sold 700 acres in 1984. So a lot of people got family like that. And a lot of people, when you do your genealogy, you're going to realize your people have always owned land.
Right. I get that. But I want to draw the audience, my colleagues' attentions to this. Of what I was trying to explain about explaining slave and master. A master. I have a master at my job. It's modern day. And I'm going to show you this based on the 1828 Noah Webster Dictionary. Okay? This is the understanding that they used in 1828 to my colleagues. A master, a man who rules, governs, or directs either men or business. A man who owns slaves is their master. He who has servants, somebody might have to mute, they got a noise in their master. He who has apprentices is their master. He who has apprentices is their master, as he has the government and direction of them. The man who superintends and directs any business is master or master workman. All right. And a master can also be a director, a head, a chief manager, as the master of a feast, the owner, proprietor, with the idea of governing. Our government is our master. They govern us. The master of a house may be the owner. And this is where the part where we know our ancestors were the masters of our house. We owned our own family. Or the occupant who has a temporary right of governing it. A lot of times, this is where you get people renting. Today, we occupy homes, we rent them, and we have a temporary right of governing in his home. It would be believed that he rather took the horse of his subject than his master. A lord, a ruler, one who has supreme dominion, a chief, a principal, as the master root of a plant. Like if you're looking at it from a governor, they changed our governor to our chief to a governor. You can be a governor of the state, a principal. Okay, you get the drift. You get the drift. The director of a school, a teacher, an instructor. All these can be masters. So we got to understand and get our people to understand the terminology that they used in those days and in those times. So when you hear somebody's your master, when you hear somebody's your executive director, your governor, your chief, those are modern terminology. Today is what I just showed you: a supervisor, a manager, a director, a chief. We have a chief of police. Old terminology versus new. So I'm going to continue to keep coming on here to share with my colleagues. And I'm not going to be the crazy Bethy. I'm going to, really deliver it to you. And I really want you guys to write articles and share your history, how you were taught here in these states about history, because it'll be helpful. And you're going to find that we were all lied to, no matter what our race was. We were all lied to.
Exactly. And just to say, Sister Bethy, the intertwinement between them using the American term, the Aboriginal term, applies to everything. That's the same way why you have tribal council for government. And just like you put as for a master, back in those terms, that was a teacher.
Yeah.
That was a teacher of a school. That was
Correct.
the school master.
Correct.
Said principal, or their ergo superintendent, chief of knowledge, if you will. All these terms are still being used to the day. Like you said, chief of police.
Yeah.
These are all terms still mixed in with the original people of the Americas.
So this is why, and I hope the Pan-Africans get a better understanding today. This is why I'm fighting you. And I will fight you tooth and nail. I will fight you tooth and nail. You will not erase my original identity. My state, Connecticut, recognizes me as American Indian, and they didn't have any dispute with me correcting it. And I'm going to continue as long as you guys are here to support me. We can do this together, writing history and correcting it. We need to correct it. in our educational systems, we need to tell the truth. That's a fact. Do you have anything else, A1 or Cherise, that you want to share? I'm going to step away for a minute, but you guys got it. Cherise?
You know what? I was looking at something. It's like I just hate that I can't share my screen because I be like pulling up all kinds of things, and I have access to like all these journals and stuff like that. And it's pretty cool when you're in school, they let you access, all kinds of things. But
Right.
I
You could
will.
put it in the back and I could share it until
Okay,
we show you how to share screen.
that's what I
'Cause
need to learn.
Actually, A1's the one who taught me how to share screen. Remember that A1 4 years ago? A1. Oh, he
Mm.
must be on the phone or he
I'm
busy.
right here. I'm right here. I'm right here, Sister Betty.
Oh, remember when you taught me how to share screen? I didn't know how. You don't
Yeah.
remember that?
Nah,
I
yeah.
said,
I mean, hey, you
you
know how
said,
it
no,
go.
you gotta learn. You gotta learn. So now I'm gonna tell you, Sharice, you gotta learn because A1 literally taught me how to share screen and StreamYard. That was 4 years ago. I don't forget nothing. I don't forget
That
nothing.
shit became. I mean, it comes in handy though, sharing your screen, right?
Yes, it
You
does.
know what? Now I recollect that when exactly when we had that conversation. Now you gotta share your screen, Sister Betty. Practice makes perfect.
Yep. I
I
said,
need to
all right.
learn.
He said, no, you gotta learn. That's what you told me. So yeah.
Because I
So
knew you was gonna be in it for the long haul.
yeah.
You
Oh,
know. I'm about to slide though. Good Bill. I don't know. You got like 2,000 people in the chat room. I don't know
yeah.
what the hell.
I
I don't know what the
streamed
hell
to
you've been doing and shit. But you gonna
I
have to send me.
streamed. I
Yes.
never streamed to my Twitter page because I was always afraid. Because before I was a YouTube, I was always a Twitter because I was into politics. I was campaigning, and we were fighting on Twitter.
Yeah.
For our politicians, our senators and reps. So I was really heavy working with the communications department and and politics. But I'm not there anymore. But they're still my colleagues.
No
So
doubt, no doubt, no doubt. Peace
I'm
to God.
streamed over there now, and that's what happened. They all came over here, but I sent them to Chief Holiday's page on New Year's. the and I got like 500 texts. Where the hell did you send us to? What's going on here? Because Cuddy was DJing and they start acting crazy. And they said, "What's
Yeah, you
going
know.
on?" They stayed the whole time. So I got, people from all different states, and they was like, "Is this serious? Is this real?" Because they're not from YouTube, they're from Twitter, but they stayed the whole time. I guess they thought, "Wow, these guys are crazy." Yeah, it was
Yeah,
funny
that's
though.
what's up, though.
Yeah,
Congratulations, though. Congratulations
yeah,
on your newfound success. I'm
yeah.
about to slide, though, but peace to the guys, peace to the goddesses. Y'all continue doing what y'all doing. I'll be listening.
Well, let me know when you're
Peace,
ready to
A1.
do a build over here about us being
Whatever,
first
you
first about the
already know.
water so you can share it with my colleagues because they probably don't know that. Then again, they probably do. And I probably got some flat earther colleagues. Y'all let me know if you flat earther or round earther because I'm going to get Brother Sanchez to come over here. So
Yeah,
let me
Salute,
know
and
A1.
when you
Salute.
want to do that
and
build
and
over here.
just remember too, like like I told you, this fucking punk ass nigga Turtle Gang. He talking about niggas trying to get a money tip. I don't listen. I'm not hungry for no money, but what I'm not gonna do is I done did hundreds of lectures for free. Hundreds. I done did hundreds of lectures. So when we do a debate, nigga, like, come on, bro. Like everything ain't for everybody. But for
Right.
some reason, you got whiff of it, nigga, and you know. So peace to guys, peace to God says Aborigines up, these $5 Indian Pan-Africans down. With that, I'm out of here. Peace to goddesses, though.
Salute,
Peace,
A1.
A1.
Peace.
Peace, A1. Sharice,
Yes,
did
baby.
you want to share something else?
It was just I had like found a quick little excerpt excerpt about, like white slavery in the United States. I'm just very interested in this topic.
All
And
right. Well, maybe
just,
do it another day since you already did a long one on it.
yeah, so that's
You
why I don't
save it
want to,
for
yeah.
another day. You should. What you should do is take those links and put it on a Word document so you remember to go to it, and you start building up your collections of research. That's what I do.
Okay.
I, that's what I do. I put it on a Word document. I just copy and paste the link. So you can go back and say, oh, I think I want to read this on YouTube. It's good to share. That's what it's all about. It's about us learning and finding out about our history ourselves, because we're all, as a people, we're always being told something.
It's
And
true.
that's we have to stop
And
and
and I
start
will
looking at
say,
ourselves.
because I tell people, like, my folks, I'm from DC, and my folks migrated
Oh,
to DC in like the 70s at some point, but they were always in Loudoun County, Fauquier County, Virginia, like more like Northern Virginia, but it's still like an hour away from DC. And it's interesting too, because on both sides of my family, particularly with my grandmother, so her side, and then her husband, their families lived like 2 blocks down from each other, like literally like 2 paces.
yeah.
Like, so they were so young, and like it was just like young country life. And it's just interesting when I hear her, speak about these things, because they don't speak about their childhood and stuff like the way people would expect them to speak about it. Like their father, my grandfather, it's not my grandfather, excuse me, my great grandfather, he built his home with his own hands. Their little
Hmm.
shack that had the 13 children living in it, and all of them, they barely had a bathroom. It was just the way that they lived at that time. And
Yeah.
our ancestors had been, sharecroppers. Because I, even on my father's side, there was a sharecropper. I had an ancestor, she was rich, and she, had several businesses, steaks, stocks in
Hmm.
businesses like Krispy Kreme. And I said,
Yep.
who? I couldn't believe it. My aunt Ollie, my great grandmother Ollie Postel, I couldn't believe it. And they came,
Yep.
by way of South Carolina to DC. So it's just interesting when you learn about your family history and your genealogy. And it's like, damn, it's like our folks really was affluent, and they try to
Yes.
make it seem like they weren't affluent, but they were, and
Right.
they had lands. And my great grandmother is 100. So my
Wow.
my grandmother's, my grandfather's mother, so she's 100 years old. And it's like
Wow.
all she can recall is that she worked for 2 families her whole life. See, she was born in 1923, so we know Plecklet stuff kicked off in 24. So her recollection of, the Indian stuff, I don't think is really there, but she knows that she's been there in Culpeper,
Hmm.
Virginia, where she's from,
Yeah.
and now in
My
Loudoun.
husband, my husband he grew up on the farm. And why I think he should have stayed there. He wouldn't be dead today. In Chase City, Virginia. You know where that is?
No, I don't.
Chase City, Virginia is the country suburb. And they lived on the farm. And they had the same old house. They had an outhouse. It's still there, the outhouse. And he still went to fetch water. They had chickens and stuff. He would go out in the morning to get the eggs, and he would go fetch the water because they had a well back there. But he had to walk a ways in the woods to get to it. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to live there, because I'm straight city girl. I didn't
Mhm.
experience any of that.
Exactly.
So
So it was a
whatever,
shock to me
right?
too.
Whatever my grandmother taught me is what I learned about Southern. I'm a city girl, and I'm what you call a city girl with Southern morals. So my grandmother raised all of us with Southern morals. Southern morals means the man is like, yes, ma'am,
I
no, ma'am,
agree.
all of that. That's the way I was raised. But as far, I'm a city girl. Girl, my grandmother taught me how to cook the collard greens. I know how to cook the whole soul food thing. But
Yes.
my husband really taught me a lot, because he was like, you got to shuck the corn. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Because, see, I'll go to the grocery store and get a can of Green Giant. I'm from the city. We don't shuck corn.
Oh,
And he's like, no, 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 no. So he peeled it up and you can put it on the grill. So I learned a lot more from my husband because he's just like Virginia. Virginia.
Yes.
May he rest in peace. And cleaning fish, I couldn't stand to do that, but he didn't mind doing it. I'm like, we
Mhm.
don't do that. We go to the fish market and they scaled it off and just fillet it for us. We just come home and dip it in the cornmeal and fry it. All that
Yeah.
extra. You say you lazy. I said, no, I'm not. I got to go to work tomorrow.
I just think they were just
No, because
so
I'm from the
old
city.
fashioned and down home, like,
He's very
that
old fashioned,
doing those
very.
things are comforting as well, and doing it for your family. Like, I'm cleaning this chicken out of love. I'm cleaning this fish out of love, and I'm gonna
Oh,
cook it with
chicken not
love
clean.
to, you
I
whatever.
had I had to learn quick. He was like, "You ain't
Yeah.
making me no goddamn can of corn. No, you ain't. No, you not." But mommy, my grandmother, she taught me, the collard greens and snapping the string beans. I know I learned all the southern stuff. It's just that, like, damn, now I got to do this. So,
That was the
but
only way, to be honest.
yeah, I love to cook though. I love to cook. I do. I love to cook.
And I love
Seafood,
how
I
food
do.
brings us together, in all senses. It's really a
Yep.
beautiful thing, when people can cook a bunch of stuff. It's a spread. You like, damn, like, it's the family, everybody getting together. It's love. Like, I know
Yep.
that's one thing that really does bring us together as a people of brown tones. And I just love that. So I hope that we can one day get back to that, like we used to, coming together. Like,
Right.
I love that movie Soul Food, not all the parts, but when the
Me
family came
too.
together.
Big mama. And that's the truth.
Yes,
We all got a big mama. My grandmother was
yes.
big mama. And she told us the stories, when she was a little girl. Now, my grandmother was born here. She's the first one since the pushing us off our land to be born in Connecticut. But prior to that, we was all South Carolina.
Hmm.
And my third generation grandmother had 16 kids. And
Mhm.
they
That's
all
not
lived
uncommon.
right. It was
That's
very
very
common.
common.
Yeah.
They all lived on the farm in South Carolina until that dreadful day when they got burned out. They had to leave, and they came here to Connecticut for refuge. When they got here, somebody was here. I forgot how the story went, and let all of them stay in one family house. It was so many of them squished in a big one family house. I'll never forget that street. And I was like, wow, they came here. They didn't have shit, man. They was doomed.
But I will say one difference between, like, them, like that generation, and today is that, the family had both people, the mother and the father,
Yes.
and the
Correct.
unity of that, and
Correct.
the strength in that, is something that, can't be denied, or suppressed. So, I think
Correct.
that was also a part of their plan. It infiltrated us that way as well, by separating us that way from one another, and our families weren't able to stay strong, because we didn't have too many examples of, what that looked like. That stuff's really, like, I know in my generation it really started to die out. As far as that, I lost my grandmother in 2001. I was 11 years old when she died. So I had my other grandmother today,
Wow.
but she's not with, she wasn't ever with her my grandfather on that side. So, like everybody is different, it's just
Hey,
different.
smoke. Yeah.
But I just will say, like, when those big families and things like that were happening, more of our people were unified in marriage, or in, just commitment to one another.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
it made things, even if it was hard, they didn't really feel that as much as they want to make people feel like they felt that. Because I've watched so
Right.
many documentaries about different things, like, we was in the hood but we was happy. Our mother and my
Yes.
father was there.
My
My mother went
grandmother.
to work
Yep.
in the government, or whatever it was. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
but we were
Yep.
together.
A
Yes.
lot of
My
people don't
grandmother.
realize that, a lot of people don't realize, just like you said, the breakup of the nuclear family was the ultimate goal. The breakup of the nuclear family was the ultimate goal. And a lot of people don't realize everybody was not broke during the Great Depression.
Right.
Everybody was not broke during the Great
Correct.
Depression.
That's correct. That's a
We
fact.
really have to understand that. And Sister Bethy, I understand what you're doing. So, and what I'm soaking in from you is this: the age of ignorance is over. The age of ignorance is now became a choice. You can either remain ignorant, or you can
Mm-hmm.
go and get the knowledge that you so seek.
Correct. And that's a fact. And what we have to do is just move away from people that keep pushing this African American thing. You know, to,
That's one way to look at it, smoke
yes,
signal.
Mrs. Aboriginal. That was crazy. But I was in the chat fighting for him. I'll get to you in 1 second. You know, I oh God, I forgot my sister thought. Oh, we when we lived in the hood, my grandmother, she kept the family together. Or literally, we might have lived in the hood and we were pushed off the farmland. They were, but the big Thanksgiving dinner, we still kept our tradition as a people, our Indian culture. We always feast with the whole family. And you know what? Other My grandmother's other family members, they got the money from us being pushed out of burned out our home and didn't share it with my grandmother. That's how we end up in the project. And they end up living in the suburb. But guess what? They bowed to my grandmother before they died and apologized to her because they left them hanging. And the most interesting thing about it, even though they lived in the suburbs, guess where they came for Thanksgiving? They came in the hood and squished up in my grandmother's home with all of us to
Mm-hmm.
enjoy Thanksgiving because my grandmother had the blessing of cooking. She'll cook for that whole damn community.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew it. All their kids. What brought the adults to our family, like my cousins, my third and fourth cousins, is because they said, I'm going to Aunt Dottie's house for Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, that's something. They came to my grandmother's house, the one that was hurt. We didn't know none of this until a few years ago. You know, my mom talked about it because we wasn't allowed to sit at grown folks' table when they talking about the family business. And these
Mm-hmm.
are things that we weren't allowed to hear. Back in the 70s, we couldn't sit at the table where our grown
Mm-mm.
folks talk. My grandmother smacked us
Mm-mm.
in
Mm-mm.
the mouth.
Yeah,
Get
my
knocked
father
Smacked
to
us
the
tell
in
me
the
floor.
many of
mouth.
stories about woo.
Get knocked to the
They'll
floor.
play with
Yeah.
that backhand back there, honey.
Yes.
Mm-mm.
And the punishments and, you know, getting in trouble in school. We got in trouble.
And
But
your neighbors
it's
whooped
just,
you too. Your
yes.
Yeah,
neighbors used to get you too, for what my folks
yeah,
told me.
Yeah.
yeah.
And bring us home. And it's just amazing how today it's backwards. It's flipped the script. These young kids sit at the table telling their mother a story about the next person's business or who father slept with who and touching each at that. You couldn't sit up at the table. And this is what this 1990 generation allow. Let me see.
Yes.
1980
No,
generation.
90. Late 80s, early 90s.
Putting
It was
that on
in
us.
between that.
Well, yeah, their kids are sitting at the table
Yes.
listening to
Grown folks
personal
combo.
things, and then they're going out in the street
And
repeating
repeating.
it and having fights and your daddy slept with my mama and all this stuff. This is stuff that we weren't allowed to do. Hey, they oh yes. Let me see. Dane just responded to me saying they are ringing. Yes. I was listening because I frequently listen to Q Butter's channel. And do you know these dudes was harassing Dane until he came on the panel? And I was like, oh my God, he went on their panel. So I'm in the chat room and they're trying to say he had some scammy paper on his site, which was bullshit. It was instructions how to do stuff. And he explained it to him and he made him look like a fool. Q Butter. And I was typing in the chat. Because
I
he
don't
only
like
I'm up.
him.
It was just, huh? I
No,
know
I
that
was
was
just saying I don't
terrible.
like him. He exhausted me yesterday too, because I ended up going up there and saying a few words too,
You
Sister
did?
Becky. It was way earlier. It was like 7 in the evening.
Oh no, I was. See, me and Smoke was up there too. Smoke be up there. That's why Smoke
Man,
would disappear for a few hours because he go to sleep, and then Smoke wake his butt up at 2 and 3 in the morning, and they be on the piano just they so miserable. Don't nobody be watching them.
that's all.
Nobody.
They wanted some attention and they got it. They got exactly what they was looking for.
Yep. He said that they be ringing his phone at 3 in the morning and stuff. I would flip out if somebody called me at 3 in the morning, but I get up at that time anyway because I'm at my computer at going to work. But it was a mess. But he shut their butt down.
As he
You
should have.
better know. He shut Q, but I was laughing. I didn't want to wait with it. I said, Willie, look, dang, somebody killed.
Because they was really being reckless. It's like it's the new year. And like we're not playing about our identity and what this means to us and how important it is to get this message out to our people. And that's why, like, for them to even be acting like we're trying to lie or assume an
Yes.
identity or anything like that is outrageous. Because
Yeah.
the interaction between him and I was more so on the lines of me telling him my experience being from where I'm from and the experience I've had with African immigrants telling me that I wasn't an African. Told me
Right.
that years ago.
A
You know
And
lot of
what
I,
people
kills
do
me,
I'm
that.
Sharice?
hmm?
You know what kills me? How do you comfort your captors?
Hmm.
Exactly.
how do you
Yeah.
yeah,
You
how do
don't.
you just say, "Oh, well, I've been captive and it's been 400 years, but it's okay."
Exactly.
Who does that?
It's all a lie. That's why I said, I always say this, y'all. Stop making these lies on the white people. A lot of my colleagues, they're like, wait a minute. My family wasn't no slave master. We came here in the 1900s, early
Hmm.
1900s, late 1800s, like 1890. And
Mhm.
slavery was
And they've
already
been
over.
mixing with our people too
Yeah.
in
So
that
I'm like,
time
that's
when
why
they
I
was
keep saying,
coming. Yes.
yeah. So I'm like, get off the white man's butt because wait a minute, let's count the years. Now that's why I showed the census sheet.
Yep.
When I was showing the census sheet from 1890, that's when they start putting like Japanese and Chinese people. That's why I said that it's a lie when today they're saying that these are the Indians. No, they're not. These people were not the people that
Those
were
are
the Indians.
Siberians.
Correct. And I showed you when they got here on the census sheet.
Yeah,
And
that
that
1890.
Siberians, right, Siberians, they'll tell you that they're from Asia, that their history is Asia, not here. They tell you that. So now we have aboriginals in South America and Central America, and Brazil, and the islands, like St. Kitts and St. Croix. Those are real aboriginals. Same thing in Cuba. Cuba is 99% what? Black. Those are the original Indians. It's just like Haiti.
And the original, I mean, the
Haiti took
interesting
their
thing. I'm
yeah.
sorry, Sister Bethy, because
No, no, no. Go
the
ahead, honey.
interesting thing about Cuba and what I read about the transatlantic slave trade and stuff like that and what was going on within the Americas, because they were referring to it as an intra-American slave trade, where a lot of
Mhm.
people from here was being shipped out over there to places
Yeah.
like Cuba and Brazil. And like
Prime
people don't like
example
to talk
streets.
about that.
Mhm.
They
Prime
keep making
example
like
streets.
everybody didn't come all the way here from Africa. There was
Prime
people that were
example.
black, brown, whatever you want to refer to them as. They were here and people were being shipped out. And that's why a lot of these other places are brown too. They are of us. Those are our cousins over there in Haiti and
Correct.
Cuba and all that stuff. So it's just interesting though, because I was like,
It
wow,
is.
like it makes a lot of sense.
And saying that, them being shipped in and out of here from North, Central, and South America, them coming in here like they're coming today through the border. They're coming for work. It's for a better life. And
Mhm.
prime example of that, Amistad. Those
Yeah.
were Haitians. Those were Haitians. They left out of here in pretty much like a sailboat thing to go back. They're not going on a sailboat back to Africa. They're going back to Haiti. because that's where they took them from. And they broke out into a fight on that ship, and they ended up letting them go back because they came in here and they locked them up, and they end up letting them go back. But the last thing that I wanted to bring up, beautiful, was this: in our state, Connecticut, we're the colonial state, we're the Constitution state. How they really kept a separation from the lighter Indian and the Negro. They kept them together. They counted them together. They did not count them with the pure whites. Look at the end. Total of whites. These are pure whites. Over here is the Indian who's mixed with the white and the Negro. The lighter one was called the Indian. The darker one was called the Negro. They're both Indians. They counted them together. You see this?
Oh,
Y'all
I'm
see
looking
this?
at it. Yes.
A return of the number of inhabitants in the state of Connecticut. And this is very real. I got this out of our archives. This is in 1782. In 1782, let me show you something, sweetheart. We here in Connecticut, I'll never forget this. And then I'm going to get out of here because I'm starving. Where is it? In 17, I think I got it. Where is it? Where's my guy? Oh, I don't know what the hell I did with it. We had, did I go past it? Oh, yeah. In 1782, honey, 1755, we have black governors in our state. So I don't know what these people talking about.
Mm-hmm.
This is an Indian.
Dagger.
We have black governors right here in Connecticut. You can look this up. It started in Massachusetts. And we had them. And what we did in Connecticut, we had a black governor and a white one. So we had the Indian, and they told you oversee all the black people. But in that terms, they probably said Indians. We'll oversee all the pure white people. So they had two elections. They had one black governor and a white one.
White governor. Yep.
In Connecticut. This is how I know we really need to revisit history as a people. My thing is stay away from the Pan-Africans. Don't debate them anymore.
Yeah.
They don't have any proof. They're trying to create proof by way of African American studies. Now, I'm not saying that today that there ain't Africans here and that Africans never came here. But again, what I was showing people, we have nothing to do with how British, and this is the former British colonies.
That's the one.
They named their people. We didn't have anything to do with this. They kept records of who was African, literally, in Jamaica. But we don't have nothing to do with British records. This is British records of Jamaica. Color was always, we were never racially classified. They just identified us as the color of our skin. That's why we're black. And over here, Negro is color. What is your color? Negro, meaning black. And who are you? You're an African. See, African or Creole. See down here, African. That's how they kept their records.
And again,
and this is the slave register.
That is
slave register. So we have a lot to learn. And I'm trying to take that grudge from our people off the white guy. Back off. You really need to know your history. Trump knew he was talking about saying you need to know your history. You do. A lot of us did this horrible harm to ourselves. Like A1 said, we were in power. We did this. Our chiefs, we were under their control. We got out of the system. And that's a fact. See, we were in power, our legislators, Mississippi, Texas, South Carolina. This is in the 1700s or the 17. We were. So I'm going to end today because I'm pooped. I love you guys. And I so appreciate you guys coming up on this panel with me today to share. Oh, what year was that? Oh, Chief, with the governors, Chief?
Yeah.
And he came in here all late.
Yeah, Dane was trying to get your attention too. Was asking a few things. I don't know if you had caught it.
I did. That was Mrs. Aboriginal Turtle. You mean, right?
And I thought I saw Dane.
Oh, Dane is here.
Where?
He's in our chat. So
Holy
it's Big
shit.
Chief Holiday. Dane
He should
Calloway
have
and
hit the link. I
Supreme
didn't
Chief
see
Holiday.
him. I
Yes,
see
ma'am.
Mrs. Turtle. Wait a minute. I do not see Dane in here. I'm seeing Mrs. I know she's on his team, and she said she sent him an email.
She
He
sent
was
him the link.
asking a question or something. So I
He
know
came.
I saw
Dane?
him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dane is here. So is Supreme Chief.
I'm looking back. I do not see Dane in here. I must be blocked because I don't see him. I swear to you. I'm all the way up to when Lieberson was in here. Damn, I wish I had known that.
Yeah, because he was saying he wanted to know who was
Oh,
blowing
wait
up.
a minute. There he is.
I'm about to say,
Oh,
yeah.
Sister
everyone.
Beth. Oh my God. How did I miss
Theo.
him? Shit. Oh, OCO Ab Turtle, Sister Betty. Yeah, true. I guess I'm pissing people off. Damn.
He in here.
I'm gonna put the link. Oh, that's our nation. Just getting ready to get out of here. Oh man. I know you was, Chief. He's either in here now. What? Yeah. Damn, I wish y'all had told me he was in here. I'm about to get out of here, man. I'm tired.
You was giving such a good build. I wasn't trying to
I
interrupt.
know. Oh, you should have interrupted me. I would have definitely threw that link in there. I was just trying to keep certain people off of here because I don't want to throw my colleagues off. But oh God,
That was
I can't believe that.
Supreme Chief
I'm
Holiday.
tired.
That was 1813 that she showed the British logs for how they registered any people that they brought as far as being African or said nationality. That was
I didn't
1813.
even know that he was in here. I'm so fucking, excuse my language. Sorry, colleagues. I'm pissed. That's all right. I'll be coming live tomorrow, but I'm
Yes.
going to eat. I'm hungry. If I don't eat, I'm going to pass out. I love you
Peace, Sister
guys.
Betty. Thank
you,
you.
colleagues,
Thank
for
you so
coming
much,
in here
Sister
with me,
Betty.
man. I needed that. I love y'all. And I am so out of this piece, man. I'm tired. Love y'all. And I'll be back tomorrow.